Happy early birthday, NCC1701, Chris. Wow. Sorry. I can't really sing to this music. It's just kind of weird, creepy, and ethereal right now. Moonflower Gal. I'm sending you love. I'm sending you love, Moonflower Gal. I'm so sorry. It must be terrifying. I mean, this whole week has sucked. Here, I'm gonna pop on. Normally I like to sing, but if I'm gonna talk about serious subjects, I might as well pop on now. Hello, everybody. Let me just turn this down. Also, what's it? The PlayStation like pause music is incredibly creepy. Also, I need to turn this on. That'll make that brighter. There, now you can see my face. There we are. Get that so it's there. All right. How is everyone doing tonight? How is everyone going? How is everyone doing? I know this week has been a rough week for all of us. I want to send love to everybody. And I'm sure there's more than just Moonflower Gal, but because Moonflower Gal specifically called it out, heart to you, Moonflower Gal. I'm sorry that you're probably living in abject terror at the moment, I'm sure. This is just going to be a fun stream. We're not going to talk about stressful stuff like I did on Thursday, but I do want to say right up front, as I said on Thursday, to everyone who is living in Ukraine, in Russia, or in that area right now, my heart goes out to all of you. My love to all of you. I really do hope you're all staying safe as best you can, or doing whatever you wish to do in order to, take care of yourself at this time. Yeah, my just love to everybody. Just know that you're not alone, that I know many people here in the United States stand in solidarity with Ukraine, and with just dealing with the incredible imperialist bullshit that Putin is doing right now. So just love to all of you there. And then not secondarily in terms of how important it is necessarily, but just second up, I also wish to send my love to all my LGBTQ friends, especially trans friends in Texas specifically, but also in Florida as well, because I know those are also two areas that have been particularly hit with transphobia and homophobia at the moment. So I love there, but first and foremost, I think in my heart, and I think in most of our hearts, just everybody in Ukraine and Eastern Europe right now. Just love to all of you, and my thoughts are with you. That being said, I just wanted to start with that right here. But otherwise, let's just have a fun stream. Let's watch me probably get murdered as I drink alcohol and die over and over again in Elden Ring, because I'm sure that's going to happen, especially if I'm going to get drunk while playing it. So I'm going to forewarn you that I'm going to get murdered here. Also, Geek Filter, and also, Sean, I see your super chat. I'll respond to it in just a second, but I see Geek Filter. I just wanted to say, I see a bunch of people, so I want to respond to real quick. But Geek Filter, I want to say I got to talk to Mike Johnson for an interview for his. For those of you who don't know, Mike Johnson is one of the comic book writers for Star Trek. Does like Star Trek comics, and I interviewed him along with the writer of Star Trek Picard for their recently released Star Trek audio drama that they did with Seven and Raffi. That was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But I spoke with Mike Johnson, who I won't say the project specifically because there's some spoilery stuff. Mike Johnson writes comics, and Geek Filter, my friend who is in the stream here, who is absolutely lovely and wonderful, is doing covers for Mike Johnson's work, one of which has been announced, the Grudge one. I can't say the other ones, but I know of them. Mike showed me some of your artwork that you have not been able to show me yet, Geek Filter, and it's freaking great. Your artwork looks amazing, I just want to say. So I won't say more than that on stream. But because that's as much as that's been announced. But just seeing some of the stuff that you've done, Geek Filter, you're doing great work, and you're absolutely, just know that you're like freaking amazing. Also, we need to talk soon. We should set up a call sometime, Geek Filters. We haven't spoken in a while. I want to see you. And actually, I have some news for you, by the way. Might be coming your way for a little bit in the near future. Anyways, Mike is a bit low. I'll turn that up. Also, I want to say hi to Amber Rayek. Apologies if I say your name wrong. Hey, Jessie, just want to let you know I'm super engrossed by your content. Your ability to find proper note to play in your words is enviable. Love, please keep your work coming. Love. Thank you, Amber. Heart to you, my friend. I'm assuming you're saying that because you're new to the streams, and if not, if you are, welcome to the stream. If not, sending you love either way. Also, Sean, hello to you. Hi, Jessie. It's nice to see you look well. I don't know you played Elden Ring. Play well, and all my hopes go with you. I'm going to try this. Where, like I said, I did a video about my playing Dark Souls for the first time in the middle of Dark Souls 2. I just beat the rat demon guy in Dark Souls 2. Like there's like a rat demon in Dark Souls 2 that I just beat. So I just got that far. So now I'm just starting Elden Ring. I'm probably gonna go back to Dark Souls 2 and try and beat it this week so I can get further in Elden Ring. But I wanted to start Elden Ring on stream with all of you. So we're gonna start Elden Ring here, and we'll see how far I get. And then I'll probably finish Dark Souls and then come back to Elden Ring for probably next stream. Adrenaline, heart to you. I said, hi, Jessie. Just started watching Star Trek Discovery. Do you have any reviews for Season 1 on your channel? Saw your excellent Michael Burnham ones. Oh, thank you very much, Adrenaline. Yay, I hope you're enjoying Star Trek Discovery. I don't have any Season 1 of Discovery because I actually started reviewing Discovery back during when it started at Season 2. That's when I started. I actually want to go back and do reviews of both Season 1 and Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. I think my Season 3 and Season 4 reviews of Star Trek Discovery, I mean, obviously my Season 4 Discovery are pretty up to date, but I haven't, I feel like my reviews of Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery I could do a little bit better now that I've grown as a content creator. So I do want to go back. I should go back and do that at some point. Kind of like how Vera did for her overdue Doctor Who reviews, and just get those done. Because they're the only missing modern Star Trek. I've reviewed every single element of Star Trek from Star Trek 2009 onwards, except for the first season of Discovery. So I need to do that. I just got the first issue in the mail 5 minutes ago. The other issues are a dear. Oh, you can say it. Okay. I didn't know if you could say that or not, because I knew the Grudge one got announced, and the other issues are Adira, Detmer, and Linus. Blue retweeted the Adira cover. Yes, okay, I did see that Blue did this. So yeah, just to announce, thank you very much for your super chat. Yes, for everybody, you should. So now that I know I can actually say this, because I've known this for a while, but I didn't know if I could actually say this. But Geek Filter is working on a Star Trek, and I've mentioned a few times, but he's working on a Star Trek project where they're doing like individual one-off stories, comic book stories for characters on Star Trek Discovery. And they have one for Grudge, Adira, Detmer, and Linus, as Geek Filter said. The one that I'm most excited for is the Adira one. But I saw your, it was your Detmer one. I saw your Detmer one, Geek Filter, and oh my gosh, Geek Filter, your Detmer cover is so good. It's so good. It's so good. I was like, Mike showed me that cover, and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, I've loved all your covers so far. The Adira one is great, and the Grudge one is great. And I saw the Grudge one in the middle of making it, but the Adira, the Detmer one is beautiful. It's like to be fair, it's like that minimalist style that I really like, but it's so good. It's so good. I'm excited. You should all read it, everybody, and buy Geek Filter's covers. I mean, not to, because I know you're doing one of the, several versions of the covers. And I know that the other people are probably working hard. The other artists are working hard on their covers. But buy Geek Filters. Let's get his up front so you can get more. So yeah, go buy Geek Filters. And I'll probably do reviews of those comics. In fact, I actually spoke to Mike Johnson. He said he wants to come on my channel to talk about those comics. So I'll probably have Mike Johnson, the writers of those comics, on the channel. And maybe I'll see if I can get you on here, Geek Filter. Maybe we should do an interview with you about how you do comic covers. That'd be kind of fun. So, how is Newt? Give him hugs from me. Well, thank you, Sean. He was in the other room, sleeping on the bed. But he's doing good. Being a bit persnickety today, but otherwise Newt's doing well today. Let's see. Fun fact, the president of Ukraine and his former opponents are both defending Kiev. I did see that, local. I did see that the president of Ukraine was defending the capital as well. So, yeah, I did see that. I think that was, a big thing on all the streaming things. Seems like actually a good leader. I mean, I can't speak to his policies as I don't know much about Ukrainian politics outside of, their situation with Russia currently. But seems like he's a pretty bomb leader, to be honest. But yes. Yeah, for sure, a baby Mario brother. I agree with you. All right, I want to start playing this game. Normally I chat more, but I've been wanting to play Elden Ring freaking all week since the reviews came out. So we're gonna start this game. But let's. I have my beer. So this beer is. I got something special today. It's not the Lord of the Rings-esque one that I've been drinking the past 2 weeks. So I do have some of that in my fridge. I may have one later. But this one's called Rooftop Money for some reason. I don't know why. But it's an imperial stout with marshmallow, vanilla, toasted coconut, and coffee. So all of that sounds delicious. Yeah, so let's do this thing. I'm so excited. I'm kind of curious. So this is my impression of the game before I've even played it. But I'm kind of curious because a lot of people are talking about Elden Ring is a game that doesn't give you much direction. You sort of pick things out and you just sort of discover the world, which in a lot of ways I'm excited for. because I do get people being like, then some games, like especially the Assassin's Creed games nowadays, just a lot of nonsense to do and not a lot of like good stuff. It's just like a checklist of things to do that aren't necessarily all interesting. But I also wonder with my anxiety, I actually kind of like crossing things off of lists. So I was actually like, Horizon seems like a game where like there's a lot of stuff to do, but all of it's fairly interesting, and I like seeing the stuff crossed off the list. But Elden Ring's not going to have that. So I'm wondering how I'm going to feel about it going into it. But the world seems like it's already got me into it. So I'm actually sort of curious if I'll respond to this game in the same way that other people are responding. Because part of the reasons I like Dark Souls, the Dark Souls games, is that they are fairly linear. I actually like the linearity of them. So I'm actually curious if I'll respond to this game in the same way that other people will be. I mean, I'm open to whatever. I'm just sort of, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just sort of like, I'm curious to see how it'll come across. Bellamy, Bellamy, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, my friend. I'm glad you're drunk. I hope you're having fun. You are absolutely wonderful. I have not. We're going to create my character together, Golden Themin 13. So we're going to do that right now. All right, let's do this thing. I'm going to start playing. Let me know how this, as per usual, let me know how the sound... Hey, Aronok, good to see you, my friend. Everyone, go listen to Aaron. Aronok just released their Matrix video about how the Matrix is intrinsically trans. I shared it in my community tab. Their video is so good, especially the ending. Like, Aronok's writing at the end of that was so freaking wonderful, and you should all be watching it. Like, legitimately, if you love my Matrix Resurrections video, which, why wouldn't you? You should go watch Aronok's Matrix is intrinsically trans video, because it is so good. It is so good. And it released today, and you all should be giving it some support, because it's wonderful. But, all right. Oh, thank you, Morgan, for sharing it. Also, let me see how this is. Okay, this game is already intense. I love... It made me cry too. Oh. It made me cry too, Sarah, but what is... Oh, that is vanilla. How? I'm so sorry. I've just never... I've had stouts that had vanilla taste to them. And this is like toasted coconut and whatever, but like... That is vanilla. Aronok, yeah, I'd probably be down for that. Yeah, you know what? Give me a little bit, because I want to just, like, play this for a little bit. But Aronok, I'm not against it. But let me see. When's that? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm, like, legitimately enthralled by this. Anyways. Let me just see this. Let me just see if I can pull... If you're on Discord, Aronok, let me know. I can pop you on. Would everyone be interested in having Aronok pop on again? Because I could do that. But yeah, let me play a little bit of this. Then we can jump on. I'm just pulling up some stuff. Ooh, a lot of things I missed. I need to check my Discord more. Is what's happening. Okay. Yeah, let me set up a little bit, and then I would happily have you on. Give me like 10-15 minutes, and then I'll have you on in just a second once I get everything set up. Every time I finally get around to watching your newest feature length video, you put up another one. I'm sorry. And my next two videos are also gonna be feature length. I'm sorry that my videos are becoming longer. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyways. I feel bad about it. I mean, I know people like the long videos, but I'm also like, I'm killing myself doing it, but we do it. Let's see. New system. You know what? Aronok, are you ready right now, Aronok, actually? Because it's like, it's probably best to have you on while I'm doing, like, the freaking player character. Like, who cares? Aronok, if you're ready, I can have you on right now. I just need to set you up. Yeah, let me see. Is that... Yep, okay. This'll do it. I'm going to call you in. Make sure I'm not going to show anything on my screen that's not good. Not that I have anything inappropriate here. Hey, hey! Let me see if I can get you. I think everyone should be able to hear you already, but let me see if I can get you. Let me get you on here. I'm just going to pop us on.
I will pull up my camera for you.
That would also be good. I need to pull up. I'm pulling up my camera now because I think people can only just see the Discord window. So give me a sec. Everybody, I'm sorry. Give me a minute. There we are. Oh, that's my video camera. Oh. Oh, is this going to be weird? One second. Let's see if I can fix this. Oh, you know what? Give me a hot second. You'll be able to hear you, but I might need to just do some playing around here for a second because this thing is just giving me... Oh, you know what I can do? This is what I can do. It's great to see you, NCC 1701 and Chris. All right, let's see. If I do this, but then... Ah, so no one could hear us. I was just doing that the entire time. And now people can hear you, Aaron. So now we can test.
Hi, hello.
Everyone can hear Aronok. And everyone should be able to hear me now. Let us know if that is not the case. And I'm going to turn on the game sound. You should be able to also hear the game now.
That's good.
Okay, we're all good. There we go. All right. Now we should be good. All right, Aronok, how are you, my friend?
I am very tired.
I would bet. You've been working really hard on that video. Like you like had me watch it the other night. I know you were like doing editing on it and like all that fun stuff.
Oh my god, the amount of animation and stuff I did yesterday, like,
it's so good.
You don't get how much time it takes to draw things and make things move and stuff. Just the simple stuff and like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, can I just be the wretch? And just be like a horror. I know you can't see my screen, so I apologize, but I'm picking character stuff now. I'm gonna probably be... What's the difference? Do you know what the difference between the Vagabond, Hero, and Warrior is? Does anyone know? Because those are my three that I usually play as. I like to just stab things. It's usually my thing.
I don't know enough about this one specifically.
Gotcha. Let's see. Does it tell me? You know what? Warrior is usually I play, so...
I'm the weirdo that runs the naked person with no armor and
oh my gosh,
get good at rolling.
I love that. I love it. That's what they don't call them the stabby awards for nothing. Yeah, that's what I like to do. I like to stab. I like to run around and stab things. Like I don't even think I know how to use magic in Dark Souls games, to be honest with you.
Chat, sometimes when you reload back into a stream or a stream comes back up, it'll lower your resolution. I see a couple people complaining about this. So click on your resolution bar and set it back up to 1080 or whatever your internet allows.
Yeah,
and that'll make it not blurry.
I mean, I like being blurry, right? Who doesn't like being blurry? I mean, when your screen blurs, I literally blur in real life. That's how I looked in real life. It's just blur. YouTube is automatically reduced. Yeah, that's what did. I didn't know that. The only thing better than stabbing is arson. Wow. Well, Corin. I mean, I like blowing. I mean, I can. Pyromancers are fun too. Let's be. I want to be. You know what? Can I just be a badass like elder fighter? I'm gonna be aged. Screw it. I want to be like a badass like elder fighter. I'm here for that. Oh, now it gives me the stats. Let's see. So the difference between warrior vigor. Mind. Oh, I think Vagabond might be... Oh yeah, no, I think definitely Knight is more my thing. Yeah, Vagabond is more my deal. It's aged over 30. No. One of the things. So Anyway, sorry. Randomly, I know.
Yeah, you're all good.
I'm just like talking about stuff. So, can I just say? I want to say this on the stream for you, for your video. Legitimately, I know Sarah said this earlier in the stream too. I legitimately cried at your ending. It was so good and very, very powerful. And I think I text messaged you like several times last night about how awesome I thought your ending was, because it is really, really strong and amazing.
I said this on stream earlier today, but be personal for a second. I had a bit of a panic attack this morning about releasing it, and like I've been very anxious about getting this video right. There's a lot of difficult topics I'm talking about, and I just your words and David G. Bradley, who'd also watched it for editing feedback, helped me get through that little that little mental moment I was having of like, it's not good enough, and I'm like, yeah, just freaking myself out for no reason.
Well, I mean, I get it. Like every time I especially like I've gotten better at it now that I've like been doing it for a while, and I know you've been doing it for a while too. But like especially with videos that are like really personal to us, I had the same thing with my cancel culture videos. Like you want to get it right on such a topic that's so personal to you and important as well, just in general.
Yeah. So there's 2 degrees of anxiety with this one. For those who haven't seen the video yet, I discussed the Wachowski's racism, or more accurately, I platformed several people of color so they can talk about it. And that entire section exists mostly because I saw their critiques already, and I was like, hey, I'd like to quote you, and if you're up for it, have you voice them. Unfortunately, Indy had some life stuff going on, so he couldn't record his own lines. But he said it was okay for me to read them out. So, and yeah, that entire segment was very much, the editorial control was in the hands of the many people of color I worked with on this video. I really wanted to make sure that they were being respected and listened to and prioritized in the conversation.
Well, that's what I really enjoyed. I mean, I know that was like editorial control out of your hands, but I called it out in my own video about wanting to center that, but it's like it's really necessary to talk about like creators as like people who have done like the totality of a creator. Like the Wachowskis have done some offensive stuff and said offensive stuff, and as much as like I love them and I love their work, it's important to not aggrandize and deify them in a lot of their respects.
Well, the people that I work with are fans of their work. Like it's not this like we're gonna destroy the Wachowskis.
Yes.
Skeletor. It's not this like it's very much about having like they are human beings and they've done messy things that aren't great before, and that's just a reality that we have to confront if we're going to talk about their work. And I don't feel comfortable just blindly praising something without discussing the entirety of the aspects of it. And for myself, as someone who experiences multiple forms of marginalization, I think it's really important that we do that. The other layer with this video was in a conversation about the importance of marginalized perspectives on art and not ignoring marginalized perspectives. I felt it would be irresponsible, even though I'm not really talking about their like specifically messed up pieces. Like The Matrix on its own isn't the piece that was really being critiqued in particular. It was more a broader discussion of the Wachowskis' work in general. Because again, they put Yellowface and Cloud Atlas. Like that still is something that like the fact that people are like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. It's one of those like, oh, sorry, one second.
No,
I actually want to hear this opening credits bit. So this is like the only bits of story that we get. So 1 cent. Apologies, everybody, but yes, I agree with you. Ah!
The great Elden Ring.
Sorry, I know you're delayed on this, Aeronaut. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
In our home, across the fork,
The lands.
between.
You know, I wonder how much work George R. R. Martin actually did for this game, is like my question. Did he actually do anything? Just like, here's some notes. I'm gonna go spend 50 years writing the next Game of Thrones game. A movie or book or whatever it is.
From what I understand, he's not a bad collaborator.
No,
Like,
I heard that, yeah.
I feel like for a world building type of thing, he'd probably be more useful because I think he spends a lot of time in that stage first and foremost.
Mhm.
to perish.
And in the writing too, it like spends a lot of time world building and like describing a lot of. He's very Tolkien-esque in that.
Yeah,
Demigods,
I think he is much like Tolkien. You know, so focused on like, well, I have to look at all the consequences and all the regions of this world, and
Which
when
I
some of
appreciate.
that is taken out of his hands, I think that's actually helpful. Because sometimes he gets more interested in the world than the story he's telling.
I mean, Tolkien had that same problem, right?
It's why I still think that The Hobbit is his best work.
Yeah, because that's actually just telling a story. Also, this
Yeah,
art. Oh, sorry, I'm just like adoring the art.
No,
Apologies.
go ahead.
A war
You've got more important
leading
stuff.
to abandonment
Well, no, yours is more important stuff, but
by the greater will.
can we just talk about like From Software's art direction is freaking amazing. Going to bed, sorry. Well, have a good night, Chief Dancing Ostrich.
Rise now,
This
ye
guy's getting into it.
tarnished. Ye
Rise
dead
now.
who yet live.
I don't think
The
anyone
call of
quite
long
matches
lost
From
race
Soft's art,
speaks
except
to us
maybe
all.
Bungie. And I'm only saying that because I just completed, like, holy shit, Witch Queen.
That's what everyone's been saying. I wish I was into Destiny because I feel like this game's getting loud.
Chieftain of the Badlands.
I would be down actually because I've been wanting to get into Destiny. Anyway, sorry, one second. This game has gotten overwhelmingly loud, so I want to let it finish.
Deathbed companion. The loathsome dung eater. And Sir Gideon Ofnir.
This narrator is like into
The
it.
all-knowing.
Whoever the voice actor was for this bit just like earned his money. All right. Sorry, I apologize, Aeronaut. I know
No, you're all
the fun bit of like jumping in on a gaming stream.
Other
No, I get it. Like,
whom
I really
grace
do.
would again bless.
I think
A tarnished of no renown.
I don't know. There's a video on my channel if you want to see how much I love Destiny.
Oh, your Destiny video is great because it was very inclusive
Yeah.
of people who have never seen
Across the
a single thing of Destiny.
To the
I actually think it might be a good way of
between.
introducing a queer
It worked for me.
Yeah,
To stand
like, if
before
you like
the
Halo,
Elden Ring
you will get something out of Destiny. If you've ever enjoyed an MMO, Destiny is the
and
most like.
become the Elden Lord.
Don't sell it to me that way because MMOs are not my favorite. Not to hate on MMOs, they're just not what
No,
resonates with me.
what I was gonna say is it does a lot of the things I like. It covers a lot of the issues I have with MMOs. Like, it's a lot better.
Anyways, now officially okay. Now we can officially talk. Oh my God, you can actually jump in this game? What? Like not in ridiculously. Sorry, I've only played Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. You have to like do
Oh,
a weird
yeah.
you have to like have a math degree in algebra to figure out how to jump in those games. Anyways,
Hold
now.
B and then tap B.
It took me like legitimately 6 hours to figure out how to jump in Dark Souls 1. I'm like, wait, how do you jump? I figured it out by accident. Also, chat, let me know now that the opening credits has stopped playing, because that means that's probably going to be most of the necessary like exposition we'll get for this game. How the sound levels are for me and Aeronaut. So I'm going to turn down the game sound a tiny bit. and then prioritize Aronach and myself audio-wise. So just let me know how that works. Oh, thank you very much, Chloe. I know you saw it. Thank you for your earlier super chat. Chloe, this week was so bizarre that it started with me selling sunglasses to MST3K and riff tracks Bridget Jones Nelson. She hasn't seen me in years. My dad used to interview them all the time in the 90s. Oh, that's amazing, Chloe. That's absolutely awesome.
Stop being a stinky.
That's awesome, Chloe. One of my friends, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Kennedy.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And thank you, Mountain
I'm
Harpy.
distracted by my cat.
No worries. Thank you, Mountain Harpy, for your super chats. You're lovely. One of my friends, Kennedy, she just wrote for the new season of MST3K, which is exciting. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Kennedy, she does the Women at War podcast, which is like a Star Trek podcast, which I really really love. So, anyways, yes. So let's actually talk now that we're past this part, and I apologize. This has been kind of a mess. What we were saying before, I do agree with you with the Wachowskis. Like, we do need to talk about creators' problems. It's why I'm actually. So you're gonna be. I'm actually gonna send you the script later, but I'm working on a James Gunn script. And
I'm excited for, just reading wise, I love James Gunn, but I love modern James Gunn.
Yeah, well, like the video is like my discussion of masculine, like how James Gunn consistently throughout all of his work has explored masculinity, but how his exploration of masculinity has reflected his own journey with masculinity, and how
100%.
Exactly, and like how that's both good and bad. And so I try in the video to like talk about like, here's some ways like these are problems with his work, but they also reflect his own problems as a person that he himself starts to reflect on as we get further into his filmography, which I think is like kind of an interesting thing to like reflect how art reflects a person and how we can criticize the art, but the art also reflects like what a person is going through as they write it. It's like an interesting sort of like discussion of like the process of like growing as a human being through both being a creator and also like not like letting that creator like skate by for having problems. Like the fat phobia in a lot of his work, for example, is something I'd spend some time talking about, which I think will be like interesting. To like talk about how he often relates fatness with dehumanization, which is disgusting in terms of an idea.
No, I want to be clear. Like,
and I love James Gunn. That being said,
massive amount of problems at the same time. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's like, show me your favorite director. I guarantee there's something that they've done. Like, it's just like, this isn't about the. There is no perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that people are perfect, I think, is actually a halting stop in having conversations about marginalization, about bigotry in creative spaces. Because if we constantly, have this idea that, we should expect people to be perfect to be able to like them, then, like, what you're going to have to do is you're either going to not like anyone, basically, or you're just going to have to start ignoring all the bad stuff that those people are doing. And in my experience, a lot of people choose the latter.
And actually, sorry, I want to say, Sarah, I actually was going to reach out to you about my James Gunn script. So we will talk, Sarah. I meant to actually ask you yesterday when we were messaging, but I got busy. But Sarah, you and I will talk because I actually want you to have a section in my James Gunn video if you're interested. Also, Mountain Harpy and Joanne Rivers, thank you so much for your super chats. Mwah, you're lovely. Also, Revolution of the Kind, thank you so much for your super chats. I'm behind the stream, so I won't see your response to this. But seeing as I'm struggling to find work right now on Camp Patreon, I just wanted to chuck my tax return your way. You help me. Oh, Revolution of the Kind, please. Number one, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate that. As I want to be clear, I appreciate you sending super chats my way. Please hold on to your super chats for yourself, especially if you are, needing money and things like that. Like, I always want people to only send me your disposable income. Support of me is very appreciated, and I love it, and I really, it does help me do what I do on the channel. But I want you to take care of yourself first, and only ever send me what is disposable. So, Revolution of the Kind, thank you so much for your super chat. And I appreciate you, and I thank you very much for that, and I hope you find work, and I hope it goes well for you. You were absolutely lovely and amazing. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to respond to those real quickly. So, anyways, you were saying.
Aaron.
You're talking about creators. I apologize. Welcome to
Yeah. No, you're all good. My brain is. I have not slept in a long time.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. No, it's insomnia and hyperfocus are a fun combo.
Also, this is gorgeous. Sorry, as someone who just went from Dark Souls 2 to this, I'm like, oh look,
oh, God.
Everything is crisp. Like there's no blur.
I like Dark Souls 1's weird aesthetic. I think Dark Souls 2 is very ugly and not in an interesting way. Dark Souls 1 is ugly in a like purposeful way. I find Dark Souls 2 is ugly in a I don't like this art style. Now again, that's subjective. If you enjoy it, I wish I did. I really do.
I like Dark Souls. Oh God. Okay, there's a thing I have to fight now. Yeah, thank you, Dark Souls, for this, or whatever this is. Anyways, you talk, Aaron, because I'm about to die. I have thoughts on what you just said, but I'm about to die hard.
No, it's okay. And again, like, very, very personal feeling. I want to be very clear. That's a huge, massive, subjective opinion banner, you know, like, but yeah, I personally don't enjoy Dark Souls 2's look. But I get why other people do.
Oh, there's another cutscene. Sorry, there's another cutscene going on. This game has more cutscenes than all of Dark Souls put together. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I'm playing Dark Souls 2 right now, like I said, and I've just got to... I beat whatever the rat boss is, and I agree with you. Like, I can see why people dislike Dark Souls 2. I actually kind of like parts of it. Like, but what I think my feelings on Dark Souls... Horsey! What I think my opinions on Dark Souls 2 is that I think it made some interesting design choices that I actually don't hate. I understand why they went that direction, but they feel like they are sometimes at cross purposes with each other. That don't, like in Dark Souls, they kind of all the design decisions build each other up, whereas Dark Souls 2, I feel like a lot of the design decisions kind of like go against each other in a lot of ways. Like, for example, they like punish you for dying. Like, your health bar lowers if you die. But then they throw random, which would encourage you to get better at stuff. Like, get practice and get better. But then they'll throw random enemies at you. And it's like, if they throw random enemies at you, that's like not encouraging you to get better. It's like encouraging you to like, it just kind of like punishes you for dying. And then they throw random stuff at you, which like forces you to die more. It's just like design decisions that don't necessarily build upon each other. They kind of work at cross purposes, which is what I find frustrating about the game.
Yeah, like I'm not even talking about. I was just talking purely aesthetic, purely aesthetic. I do not like how Dark Souls 2 looks, pretty heavily. Unlike Dark Souls 1 and 3, and Bloodborne and Sekiro, I think those all have absolutely gorgeous art design, but I don't know, something about Dark Souls 2 doesn't quite work for me, which is fine. Like, that is, again, that is the most subjective of subjective, like the furthest into subjective you can get, because like you're gonna feel how you feel when it comes to art style.
But I agree with you. It's like it doesn't, like Dark Souls 2's art style doesn't feel as cohesive.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Like, again, it doesn't, like... It just kind of feels... You can definitely tell it's, like, a pastiche of Dark Souls 1. Like, that they didn't have... Oh, is it Miyazaki's the gentleman's name who makes the game?
Miyazaki was not the lead designer on that one. I want to clear that the lead designer on that one is a very skilled designer, and he's made some really cool stuff, but...
Dark Souls 2 is not a bad game, at least my opinion. I don't think it's a bad game.
Not a bad game. I do think it's the lesser of the trilogy.
Yeah.
I do think that people have this weird idea that like because something is relatively worse, therefore it is bad, and that's not how that works. Like, and also we should probably specify like what we mean by good and bad and whatever, but like. It's weird to me when someone's like, well, I enjoyed this thing, but I enjoyed it less than this other thing, so it's bad. And I'm like, that's an odd take.
Yeah.
That's a weird way of approaching this, to me.
Well, it's often like how like people like I talk about Star Trek a lot. Oh, and you listen to the Pagan. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm glad you stopped playing Elden Ring to watch me play Elden Ring. But it's like it's a reductive take, right? Like, I talk about it in Star Trek. People are like, well, modern Star Trek sucks because old Star Trek was greater, or like people even say the opposite, like old Star Trek was great, so modern Star like it's just this comparison thing. It's like why don't we just take art? Like we can have art be in conversation with each other, which I think like
I think there's value in discussing the ways that like art intersects and responds and builds off each other, especially within a series.
Mm-hmm. But not necessarily in terms of like
it needs to be
rating quality.
Held within, I think it needs to be held within the context of comparison and not into this thing of like transcendental quality and enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
It's very odd.
Also, by the way, I think Dorian just has just had a message for you.
Oh, let me go check it.
Also, and Christian, thank you so much for your super chat. He said, Jesse, like you, I played Dark Souls 1 through 3. I need to play Bloodborne eventually. It is my favorite. Scared the heck out of me, though. I've only played a little bit of Bloodborne. Bloodborne was my only Soulsborne game that I played initially, and I loved it. Thank you, Christian. I appreciate it.
Right. So I just read Dorian's message. So, when you create this mentality that a creator has to be perfect in order to be able to engage fully with their work and enjoy it and everything, right? Or that the work has to be perfect in all ways. It creates a thing where, because no work is perfect, it just can't be. Like, it's always going to be approaching. Like, there are works that I think are pretty damn close to being bang on perfect, but like, I think it's a harmful mentality to approach art from, because it creates a situation where you constantly are either having to endlessly defend someone or you're just like, well, I'm writing them off because they did one bad thing, so I'm done with them. And it's like, that's not
interesting.
That's not engaging with art. That's either direction. You are removing engagement, because you're either ignoring all of the positive elements or you're ignoring all of the negative elements. And either way, that's just not healthy to art discussion.
And I agree. I think there's a distinction. Like, this is something that I talk about with J.K. Rowling quite often. Like, there's a distinction of engaging with art of toxic people and then wanting to not support artists who are currently alive and benefit from your art. And like some people will equate like, well, all Harry Potter sucks and you need to dismiss it and why can't we shouldn't talk about it anymore. With J.K. Rowling, where it's like, that lady, she is doing harm, and I appreciate, like, I won't cover Harry Potter topics necessarily on this channel. Like, I won't review the movies, I won't play the games, that sort of stuff on the channel, because it supports her, and ultimately supports an industry that supports her, because she is alive and, like, gets to perpetuate her repeated horrible, like, toxic, nasty stuff. But then also when it comes to art that it already pre-exists and that you already either have a connection with or we can discuss ongoing, like the Harry Potter books themselves that are already out there, have a cultural influence, have influenced numerous people, have an engagement, and like have a fan engagement that has moved beyond J.K. Rowling as a person, we can actually talk about like how J.K. Rowling is a horrible person, but also like engage with the art on its own terms as well. Right? Or am I crazy?
Sorry. Yeah, no, 100%. Sorry, I was muted. So there's two types of, like, there's a couple of different types of support. One is monetary support, which, saying that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism isn't an excuse to just willy-nilly do whatever the fuck you want.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but every dollar sent to J.K. Rowling, a certain percentage of that is going to actively trying to get my entire community killed. So, no, you don't get to spend money on Harry Potter merch without me being pissed off about it. The other side of it, too, is that J.K. Rowling is, unironically, an actual, like, dog whistle at this point. prominent TERFs have done things like put up billboards saying "I love J.K. Rowling," purposefully to do stochastic sort of terror acts against trans people to remind you that like society is threatening to you.
Yeah, that's what I talked about.
That was the stated goal. Like
it's what I talked about in my cancel culture video. It's like how we've equated, and I think I expressly talked about that, like how we equated like the virtuosity of a person with like the goodness of their art, but then like we sort of like use it as a dog whistle to like hide like transphobic, homophobic, racist ideals. Like same thing with Dave Chappelle. People have been like, Dave Chappelle's the GOAT, and like Dave Chappelle's this perfect person is now used to hide transphobic idolization underneath it. You know, and that's not to say there isn't nuanced conversation to be had when we talk about Dave Chappelle, J.K. Rowling, that sort of thing. But just like the unadulterated praise is hiding those ideals.
Well, and the thing for me is when I see someone wearing a Harry Potter shirt, I need to presume that person is a danger to me, and I say that because I've experienced it. Like, I have had creepy little fucking TERFs stalk me in their little Harry Potter shirts because I dared to go to the grocery store. Like, I do not... If you are wearing Harry Potter merch, if you are supporting Harry Potter, if you have it in your Twitter bio and stuff, to me, that is instantly a red flag. You are a potential danger. And even if the person isn't, not worth the risk. And so like, yeah, absolutely. I think there needs to be, I think there is nuanced conversations to be had that are led by trans people. But I'm kind of at the point where, especially with J.K. Rowling, I'm like, cis people, you need to just give up on this one, buddy.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those. I think someone said that Sean Vids has a video coming out tomorrow about J.K. Rowling, and like, I actually want to do a video that talks about Harry Potter and like the white feminism of Harry Potter, because I feel Harry Potter's
probably the book for white feminism in some ways.
Exactly, because it's like one of the things that I find fascinating about that series is like how it like in many ways like understands how these systems work, and yet like
in so many ways doesn't
at the exact same time, and like vilifies certain things, and like has this parental view of like helping things like racism and stuff. Like, for example, the house elves are very clearly coded as like, as we see in the Fantastic Beasts movies, like coded as like black people, and it's like it's just clearly like this parental view is like, oh, we can teach them how to do better, and it's like very much this white feminist point of view of like that many sort of like white cis women kind of have like, we can teach them how to do better sort of thing to it, that I think like there's a interesting discussion about like so much white and also like the treatment of Hermione as well, like as feminist.
That's the thing that always has driven me up the wall is your character is opposing slavery and they're presented as bad for that. That's presented as a flaw for Hermione.
Yeah, she gets insulted and made fun of, and like ultimately at the end, book 7, like she is able to teach Harry that he should stand up for the hatred against goblins and house elves, but that like it has to be the dude who does it, not the woman who does it, and that Hermione doing the exact same thing.
And the way that she did it was annoying and bad.
It's not even bad. It's like, it's annoyance. Like, she's annoying. Like, she is quite literally the annoying feminist.
I want to be clear. That's not like you and I feel that way about the character. It's more the book's characters say that about her explicitly multiple times. Like...
Well, all of book 5 is literally that for her.
Yeah, pretty much with Spew, like...
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I'm tired of talking about her. I'm tired that she gets to occupy all this space when there's actually important shit going on, you know?
No, like, I agree. Well,
and it's. I want to be clear, like, we're having a conversation about complicated figures. It was relevant to the conversation. It's good, but it frustrates me. This is just a more general outside... it frustrates me how much time and air is sucked out of the room by Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling and everyone else like them. I mean, they're the two biggest, most prominent figures of this. But, like, I'm not going to lie. When I was finishing a video about how trans voices get discredited and ignored, and, like, 3 days before I release it, multiple horrible, laws are passed, and Dave Chappelle gets 4 new fucking specials. Like, I don't know. It's like you can't make up the irony of that.
Can I also just I'm gonna actually pause. I know I'm supposed to be playing Elden Ring. This is always the hard part this is why I was like, oh shit, let me play some. No. This is always like when you ask like, can I come on and talk about Matrix? I'm like, yes, I want you on, but I also want to play this game, but I'm also like, I can't because I know you make me want to engage with these topics. There's all my like, crap, I can't play the game. I need to talk to Aaron now. Like, legitimately, what I really loved about your video so much was the final sort of denouement of the video is you kind of connect. By the way, Ulysses the Pagan, I see your super chat, and I will read it in a second. Your denouement of the video was so powerful because it was very clearly targeted, like why this ability for the alt-right to have co-opted the Matrix for their own purposes when it is inherently a transgender film was on the part of studio executives in charge who did not actually allow the transness of the film to be made explicit and therefore able to be ignored if people chose to. And that is consistently a problem we see with so much media today, where the queerness of things gets erased because studio executives deem it not palpable. It goes all the way back to like just all of studio filmmaking. I talk about it in Star Trek. Like, Star Trek was a franchise that it's always been about promoting diversity and combination, but queerness always gets pushed down in a lot of respects. And so, that being said, I look at something that's now happening with Dave Chappelle, and the exact same thing is happening, where, like, honest to God, at this point, my issue is less, like, Dave Chappelle is using transphobia for attention, using transphobia to build his own base and own money, but I'll just finish, then I'll let you...
Worse than that, he's using dead trans people.
And that too. Sorry, I want to make sure I say that.
Yeah.
No, you're great. I totally agree, as you say in your video. But, like, here's my biggest issue is less, like, not to downplay Dave Chappelle, who is using transphobia in order to gain attention and make money and using it to just, like, bolster his fading brand, because otherwise you wouldn't have any relevancy if he wasn't peddling transphobia. And again, I understand there's nuance in terms of the intersection of race and transphobia and LGBTQ issues that he even brings up in his special. My issue has larger been now, like, with Netflix, who enables that system, who enables, like, the system of like, we can use transphobia in order to make money because it's controversial, so we'll give him 4 new specials, which I guarantee at the very least the first special he's going to have a whole bit about trans people. And so it's just frustrating that these systems perpetuate and not even perpetuate, are like encouraging the vilification, the hatred towards marginalized groups, especially trans people right now, because we're like the current, like, okay to hate on group. But it's the way these capitalist systems work, and it
the thing about hating trans people is it lets you sneak in every other form of bigotry. Mm-hmm. Like, I guarantee you, it is. You go look at transphobia, and you're gonna find anti-Semitism and racism and every other form in there. They go little spots. Like it's all interconnected. It's not a separate thing. It's all the same systems of power, serving the same purposes. But just trans people are the easiest target right now because, frankly, we're pretty hated by pretty much everybody, like, to some degree. Like, I hate saying that. It sucks. I don't want to say that out loud.
No.
But, like, it needs to be said. And the thing that was big to me, too, with that ending bit is that I was, to every single cis person in the audience, well, not every, 99% of cis people in the audience, you're complicit. And I don't mean that in a, like, you're an evil person, yeah, but, like, in that, like, in these tiny ways, and in these big ways, too, that
Well, it's the same way too that I feel like
that discrediting of our voices is just it props up and it aids in that violence directly.
exactly. Well, I feel like it's a similar. It's something that I, like, as a white person, like, I'm struggling with and making sure that I'm trying to confront my own self about how, like, as a white person that has grown up in the society that we've grown up in, like I'm just going to inherently have things that I'm going to inherently perpetuate some racist issues and have some racist sort of underpinning ideologies, or, well, racist, like, feelings and uncomfortabilities.
Learns, ideas and things. Yeah,
Exactly.
No, I struggle with that too. Like but like first step is going. Not only am I capable of bigotry, I likely have and unfortunately will in future do things that in some way contribute to that. And the only way I can work through that, stop that, and move away from that is acknowledging it and doing everything I can to prop up and listen to voices of the groups that I'm not a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And even for the groups that I am a part of, it's still important that I constantly be listening. When I talk about trans issues, when I talk about disabled issues, I still get other people to read my work. Sensitivity reading isn't just about, like, the stuff you do not experience. It's about all forms of experience. And I don't know, I think a lot of problems, just in a broader thing, I think a lot of problems for creators could be solved if they actually talk to marginalized people. I think, frankly, most large YouTubers are extremely poorly planning out things and organizing things in ways that, frankly, are irresponsible and ethically dubious. I think that what I do, which often gets praised by a lot of people as, like, really great, is the bare minimum. I don't know, I don't think I do that incredible amount of work. I just talk to people and say, hey, did I say anything fucked up? But, like, the fact that the standards are very low, especially for people who, try to do progressive stuff, I don't know. Like, I feel like we need to start demanding more.
No,
I think sort of, like, passive, like, oh, we don't want to bother the privileged people who are trying to help out. No, it's not working.
No, I agree with you. As a creator, like, it's something that I have been somewhat confronting myself with, and I actually just had a conversation with someone earlier, right before the stream kind of came on, about this exact idea, being like, as I am someone who very much am about centralizing community and about centralizing groups of people in multiple voices, but we live in a society that intensely individualizes and aggrandizes singular voices of people. And so as a YouTuber, there's this constant tension that I personally feel as a YouTuber, where, and I talked about this a little bit in my cancellation video, and by the way, I see super chats and I will get to them and I appreciate them. So apologies that I just, Aranak always makes me have hard conversations on channel that I really appreciate, but, like, we live in a system that intensely individualizes someone. It's like, oh, you need to have your own voice, and so, like, I have this constant tension of being like, I need to be the center of this channel and the center of the community that I'm building because I am aggrandized as the creator in the center of it. But it's like, my whole ethos is like, my voice should not be more powerful than other people. It should be a conversation. And so as I grow as a YouTuber, I realize that it is on me and to make sure that I focus on and try to uplift other voices in this society that makes us individualize people, to uplift other voices from other communities, and have that not be praiseworthy. Like, I shouldn't be like, Jessie, you're so wonderful for having done this, but being like, no, this should be the standard. And I look at other controversies that I have seen happen in the YouTube space, and I have to be somewhat, unfortunately, vague because I am in spaces with some of these creators and have been reached out to by some of these creators, and it's frustrating that I have to be vague by it. But I see creators with huge platforms make mistakes that could have easily been fixed if they had listened to anyone from the communities of which they are affecting, or B, people who actually came to them beforehand with these issues. I cannot speak. Aaron, remind me
who.
Oh, do you? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Was.
We'll speak off stream.
Yeah, we'll speak off stream. But I'm gonna guess that who you're talking about. Was there a long video by a very good trans creator about the situation?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it is who I'm thinking about. So yeah, like it's complicated. I definitely had a moment there with that situation. Again, because we're being vague, I feel comfortable saying this.
It's a constant dynamic. It's not. You and I probably think of the same.
About the general stuff, but like in that situation, that one was tough because I was like, I feel like I need to do something because no one's talking about this. When it first happened, I was like, no one's talking about this, and I know that a person involved is a openly like part of a bigoted movement, and so I gathered information and got said bigot removed from Nebula.
Interesting.
Not directly, but like I do know that the information that I sent in, no one else had sent them yet. And because of friends I have on Nebula, they shared it with their HR department. And I think Nebula handled that situation really well, and I'm glad that they did. Though I wish they'd done more like a fact-checking before.
Sorry, I'm just making sure we're on the same page, but I'm messaging you silently. I just want to be clear. Yeah, there's some stuff.
It's complicated. Like it's complicated, and
I guess.
Oh yeah. No, I knew about that. What you just sent me, I knew about that as well, which is a whole other layer.
Sorry, we're being vague. I apologize, stream. Let's move off of because I'm not against talking about this stuff, but we have to be careful.
It's just one of those like I want to be careful about how we come. Like, these are complex conversations, but yeah, it's tough. I have mixed. I also know some stuff that I'm probably not supposed to know about a different aspect of this. So
we'll talk. But I think let's go back to being more general, just because that I don't want to have this conversation. I apologize, but
this happens like so fucking often. And it is so frustrating because like I was having this conversation with David J. Bradley and Lady Knight earlier because I was just doing a little stream because it's my 1 year anniversary of coming out as trans.
Okay, we will celebrate that in a second. Congratulations, that's amazing. But let's finish our conversation and then we're gonna celebrate that.
Yeah, so like David, LK and I were talking, and I feel like all three of us have really just been pushing each other in positive ways because we're good friends to do better with this type of stuff. And like if anyone's watched Lady Knight's videos, you know that she like she does a lot to make sure to talk to people in the communities and spaces that are affected by the
affected by the topics that she's
topics being discussed. Yeah, like.
And actually, Lady Knight is one of the people that really showed me that this is what I need to do as a creator. Is like I need to platform people who have been affected by the topics that I'm covering, and that I can't speak for them. I need to allow if I'm to be the person who really does fight for community and fighting for other people to have a space here, that I need to use my platform to get to that place, to like get other people to that place, to have the platform, to have the voice, to have the be centralized in those conversations.
Yeah, I think it's just important. I think like there is a grouping of creators. I think FT Signifier has kind of also really been showing a gold standard of this as well. I think that like his video on Dave Chappelle's a really, really good showing of how to have this. But he's also done really good videos about this topic. The idea that you need to knock at the door. Yeah, well, Breaking Bread, but also like some of his other earlier work and stuff. I'd have to go back and look through his videos to get the right names because it's been brought up in so many of his different videos. But like this idea that you need to knock at the door. His video on allyship. Some of his videos on allyship as well are really, really good on this as well. But like you need to know you're a guest when talking about other groups' stuff, and Yeah, and someone just mentioned this in the chat. Yes, Lady Knight's video on Jojo Rabbit's excellent. Her interview with Rich Goldstein, who's a Holocaust film historian and professor who's taught about Holocaust films for a long time. He's also Jewish. About like good and bad Jewish representation in Holocaust media and why that matters is good. And she's currently working on a video on The Gray Zone, which is the best Holocaust film that you've probably not seen. Everyone should watch it. And I believe it's spelled like this, but I demand you watch it. It's a very powerful piece. Be in the headspace for some tough topics. It's a Holocaust film, but genuinely, The Gray Zone is a masterpiece. And I watched it with LK.
Interesting. I'm excited because I really loved LK's recent video that she did with the professor about Holocaust films in media. It's a really great conversation.
Yeah, it's so important that we be having these conversations about. No, go ahead. What's up?
No, I was just saying sorry because I'm also trying to play Elden Ring too. So I apologize that my attention is somewhat split.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd really like to start pushing some of these bigger creators to get the bare minimum of ethical standards when talking about marginalized creators.
Mm-hmm.
There are creators whose, while aspects of their work I respect, I have significant problems with. In our messages, the person that you mentioned is one of them. I have some pretty big
We'll talk
issues
off stream about
with
it.
that person. We'll talk about it off stream, yeah. But that, and it's not, these aren't bad people. These aren't even, they don't mean bad. They genuinely are trying to be helpful, but I'm not a fan of people who are not part of a community, not really platforming people, and talking to one friend isn't
isn't enough.
Engaging in it. I'm sorry, but you're one friend, especially when that
Well, it's that's the whole I have a one blah friend of whatever marginal community. It's you need to engage with the conversations that are happening within that community, because even trans people are for example, they use trans people because that's a community we're both a part of. That there's discourse within the trans community about certain issues, and there's. You need to engage. You need to be able to try to bring forth the totality of a conversation within a community, and not just represent one singular voice in the community that happens to, especially when that voice happens to agree with you on every single point.
Yeah, and especially when that voice is generally not well respected by large sections of the community. Mm-hmm. That's not a good choice.
Again,
that needs to be said. We're not going to say names, but
I mean, I can say name, the example that usually gets brought up for trans people is Caitlyn Jenner or
Oh, okay, yeah. If we want to talk about that type of end of things, but I'm talking about even people on the left that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can guess which situation I'm talking about.
Yes. Well,
the other issue is that I also just one of the problems with getting to know a lot of people is that you learn shit that is not public and not yours to share, but it colors the way that you react to certain creators talking about certain topics, right? Or those creators giving feedback to other creators about your community, where you're like, ha, you really shouldn't be talking to that person for that. Yeah. So, but, if you want to talk about pick-me's that are easy to single out, Buck Angel. I talk about him in the video, but what's sad about Buck Angel is he's not some devil, as some people would like to make him out. He is someone who has just continuously and consistently developed worse and worse opinions over time. And as a former friend of his once said to me, he's got a terminal case of boomer brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like as young people or whatever. And he's fallen in with a really not great group of people. And like, I hate the shit that people like Blair White and Calvin Guerra and Buck Angel do.
I was actually gonna mention Blair White, but yeah.
But I have a hard time, like, having the same sort of feelings I have towards, say, actual fucking, like, full-blown bigots to them, because I'm like, there's a lot of self-hate going on there. There's a lot of messy things going on there. And while I will always fight against that shit, and I think it's genuinely sad, right, that they have hit that point, that they out of whatever you want to call it, cowardice, whatever, aren't willing or perhaps aren't capable of self-examining to a degree, and maybe also like listening to other people in the community, because they feel good. This is a weird thing, but they feel good when bigots validate them, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
like,
it's
complicated. The bigotry of pick-me's is very, very different than the bigotry of privileged people, like just fundamentally on a core level, because it is coming from a place of wanting safety, right, and wanting acceptance.
Yeah, well, it's like, especially in today's era, I think it's gotten a little bit different, because like we are better because of the age of, oh god, this guy's just murdering me over and over again, in the age of the internet. And I want to address some super chats that I've missed a little bit here.
Yeah.
But in the age of the internet, we're able to find community in ways that we wouldn't have been able to find before. Like, you and me as trans people are able to connect with other trans people much easier than we were able to before. And that's something you talked about, like, in your Matrix video about the age of the internet and how that's... But when you look at someone like Buck Angel or someone like that, it's like, not that this excuses them in any way, but they also grew up in an area where that was much harder to find that sense of community. And so, like, seeking to be validated by the larger world, it was like all that they had in a lot of senses. And so finding the validation of bigots is like, sometimes you just needed to do that in order to just like be accepted. And so you look at someone like, Caitlyn Jenner, for example, she's a highly privileged, rich, woman, and grew up in that world. And so she's a Republican, not just because she's already in that world, but like she's able to find acceptance in that world by like following those views and like attacking others, because she's able to get acceptance from those around her. But that she doesn't really acknowledge or understand that like the acceptance of herself as her identity is always contingent upon how well she performs for the larger bigotry. Like, if she ever steps out of line, her identity is immediately invalidated.
To say it in a really crude way, as long as she's the monkey that dances for them, they won't kill the monkey.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is they see her as less than human.
Yeah.
And like, that's fucking sad. Like, I think there is a reality to this that is sad, like, and I definitely have a lot of anger for them. For sure. I totally recognize those emotions in myself, but I also, like, it's just sort of like, you could not be like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I just think it's kind of sad to see someone turn into a dancing monkey for a bunch of people that dehumanize them. And I really hope that these people will change, I really do. But in the meantime, I think community defense has to come first.
And I'm sorry.
And, like, I have no patience for right-wing trans people in a lot of ways. Like, because I'm just like, look, you're actively trying to get yourself and everyone else in our community dead. So,
Yeah.
but I can recognize that a lot of what they're experiencing and feeling is coming from a place of genuine hurt, and I don't know. It's complicated. I have really messed up feelings about it. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing in public.
No,
but
it's good.
Like I don't know. I just, for me, I get how people get into situations where they are stuck with people who hate them and treat them like garbage. And maybe I'm over applying my own experiences with actual abuse to a situation that maybe isn't perfectly applicable. But like, there's a reality to the thing of like, they are, while they are doing harm, they're also victims in a complicated way.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's. I mean, I'm talking about it, and sorry, I want to address that too. But let me make sure I address these super chats real quickly. But I also like, that's what I'm talking about in my James Gunn video. But Ulysses the Pagan. First off, I know this has been a hot minute, but I want to say it would be disingenuous, even if an artist is a horrible person, to deny their influence on a particular genre. It doesn't mean you support their hate in any way. Agreed, Ulysses the Pagan. Heart to you. Yeah, we were talking about J.K. Rowling at that point, but I want to make sure I get through these really quick. Heart to you, Chloe. I always swipe left on women who describe themselves as Harry Potter fans in their dating profiles. Yeah, totally, Chloe. I have done the same on Tinder, where it's like I swipe left on people who like aggrandize, like, or like even mention certain creators, because it means they're not up to date on the conversations that I feel like are necessary for me to be able to like have a romantic relationship. I'll answer this quickly. It's just like, even if someone's like has Harry Potter in their bio and it's not like just part of, like, it's innocent, like they're not like being transphobic, like I love J.K. Rowling in a transphobic sense to like hide transphobia. It also means that like when I see someone who has Harry Potter in their bio still, it means that like they don't know the stuff with J.K. Rowling, and like I don't wish to, but they also feel it's important enough to put as like centralized to their identity. So it's like I don't want to necessarily be the person to like have to deconstruct that on my first date, you know, and like have to explain the bigotry of somebody on a first date with somebody. It's just not something I want to do. So I hear you. Dating is its own whole conversation in terms of like that sort of stuff with like how I relate as a trans person to like people that I wish to date, who like I have to update them on like trans issues to be able to get them to a place where like I feel comfortable dating them. Anyways, Dorian R. on Heart to You, you said on NPR they said how black men and cis white women have been at odds for a long time despite both being oppressed. Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony. Yeah, I mean we can talk about that conversation. That's a longer conversation than we can get into here because we kind of moved past. But I do want to address it. Like I talked a little bit about that within my Dave Chappelle video about like how there's like this tension between white feminism that looks parentally on racial issues in many senses, but also like how Dave Chappelle, for example, didn't like, he like spoke to LGBTQ people as like a white monolith that fully accepted trans people. Like not all white LGBTQ people accept trans people. Not all LGBT people are white. So like there's a lot of intersection stuff that Dave Chappelle missed.
Most queer people, just due to the law of statistics, are not white.
Exactly.
The majority of queer people on this planet are not white. And it is a fundamentally racist and queerphobic statement to imply that. And
exactly.
There's an unfortunate number of people who fall into saying that a lot.
Quite often. In our society, especially in the United States, like tends to place that, because of our white supremacist values in this country, tends to place centralized that.
There's another little complexity, which is the AIDS epidemic. A lot of the queer elders are white because
they were able to survive
because they were more likely to have money, and
they were able to survive.
That's just a reality.
Yeah.
Because if you had money, it's a lot easier. Though again, a large number of rich white queer people also died. That's not a ghetto jail free card, but it's again statistics, and like if you look at how many people are queer across generations, right now that are living, the reason why you can legitimately see like where AIDS stopped drastically killing off queer people represented in that statistic, like down to the year. It is shockingly obvious how much of an effect it had.
Which is why, sorry.
So the class element of the AIDS epidemic, and I would highly recommend everybody go watch Pose.
That was literally part of what I was saying.
Yes, because Pose is specifically focused on the experiences of poor queer people of color, particularly a lot of trans women in that period of time, and it does bring up the ways that rich white queer people, when they would die, would give all of their money to and their medication to organizations trying to help other queer people, right? Like there was a lot of community support and things, but the reality is rich queer people could afford medications that increased likelihood of survival. And so the percentages of queer people that were left after that were disproportionately white, more so than they had been before. And also, you know, the racial makeup of the US also has an influence on this in general. And then the third layer, I think, to that sort of visibility concept is that queer people of color very rarely get to have a seat at the table in any sort of meaningful way, in representation, in media, to representation in actual conversations. And that is why the stuff I'm talking about in the Matrix video matters. And while I don't know, I want to be very clear, I'm not an expert in any way on the experiences of queer people of color. I'm not trying to speak to that in any way. I'm just pointing out that these class, things have an effect on the way that people think that the queer community is mostly white. And most of my queer friends aren't even white. It's weird to me. And it's what it tells me is that a lot of people also just aren't looking. And it comes back to that conversation we were having much earlier about creators and actually engaging with diverse thing. The reality is, yes, YouTube's system is racist, but it's racist in a very specific way. It's not that it won't show you black creators. It's that it only shows you black creators if you're already watching black creators. Straight up. If you want to start watching black creators, go find black creators, watch their stuff, and YouTube will recommend it. I'm not kidding. I've tested this.
Yes, that is true, and it's also why not to discount the amazing work that FD Signifier is doing, but also why FD Signifier's video going viral, his video that went viral was the one on Bo Burnham. And that went viral, and I think because his video went viral and people started watching his content, and I think you spoke about this, it also started connecting people to other black creators. And
specific things to enhance that as well. We should note that Feek's very smart about manipulating the algorithm to certain degrees.
Oh yeah, he knows. Yeah, no, he's very useful.
Took that opportunity and platformed other black creators so that the algorithm would be more likely to link their videos underneath his,
Well, yeah, no, yeah, no. That was actually what I was about to say. He was very smart about then getting to platform other people, so that when you started watching other people that he had recommended, then it would start recommending you more of those creators, therefore getting you into an ability to start recognizing these creators. For example, I started finding Foreign Man in a Foreign Land through FD Signifier, who I think is one of my favorite creators that I've met in recent years, in terms of just the content that he makes. But it's that connection, and I also think sorry, that I'll end there. But I also want to make sure I can quick catch these other super chats. Pam, been watching your content for a while. Love you, Jessie. Thank you very much, Pam. I just want to make sure I get these other super chats really quickly. Okay, good. I think I'm all caught up. Cool. All right. Sorry. You were saying.
I want to emphasize this again. I've said it multiple times. I'm gonna keep saying it, but if I'm getting things wrong, chat, tell me off. Like, I'm not a fucking genius or some magical person that knows everything. I know some things. I don't know other things. Tell me when I'm wrong.
It's also hard. It's also hard because like I feel bad because I've had a beer, and I'm also playing a game, and then you're also talking about like hard topics that I'm like, I want to make sure I get this right, and also it's a game. And also it's a game. It's also a game where like I'm like, what am I supposed to do right now?
Yeah.
So I apologize that I'm trying to like balance three things. My fact that I am mildly inebriated, that you are having amazing conversation, and also like I'm just jumping around this area right now where I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Does anyone tell me? But yes. But yeah, I hear you. Oh wait, no, am I not supposed to kill this turtle? I don't want to kill this poor turtle. Oh no, I don't. I feel bad now. Oh no! Wait, why am I still saying it? And thank you. I do need to have some food. But what was I saying? I forgot what I was talking about. We're all good. So, you still there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain shut off for a second. I'm playing Gambit.
You fair.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I'm just tired. I think of the current, like the I see the incredible things that so many people are doing in
Thank you,
our
Scoop, by the way.
spaces. That are mostly marginalized, smaller size creators who are putting in this work, and all I'm thinking is like, these big creators have money, like they have budgets, They have all the space, and it's not that there's no creators that are doing this, but like even the creators who are doing it sometimes just like don't for some reason, and like I would recommend that people go watch Sarah's video on Philosophy Tube's video, and I like a lot of Philosophy Tube's videos, but Sarah points out some aspects of her fat phobia video that aren't great, and I am frustrated, especially because like I know some of the people who've worked at her productions and things. Like this isn't some like extreme stranger. It's more like a friend of a friend, So and in a lot of cases I know she's been good about hearing and listening to critiques. I just am like, why wouldn't you have someone who is more knowledgeable on the topic give feedback? I just I can't understand the mentality behind not doing that.
I also think
from a selfish level, your video will be better.
Yeah, no, that's also another thing too. Is like my sex and Star Trek video is better because you and other people are in it, like legitimately. But like I also think when it comes to like fat phobia specifically, I think we're very good in modern day discussions about like, especially in our spaces, like leftist spaces. And I see more super chats, and Wellington Smith, I did see your super chat, and I'll get to it in just a second, but I just had to pause.
Yeah,
but we're really good at
pointed out, doesn't hold it against Abigail. And again, like that's not me being like evil. Like again, I absolutely recommend people watch a lot of her videos.
Yeah.
It's more this thing of like.
Well, when it comes to fat phobia and like issues of fat, like talking about like weight and fat and all that stuff specifically, I think we as a society have very much still essentialized like a sense of moral value onto fatness, people's fatness, that we like don't talk about, that we like have somewhat deconstructed when it comes to race or even to a degree transness. And sexuality, like, in many ways, that, like, because, quote-unquote, everyone has the ability to be fat, and there's, like, different things to, like, talk about that. There's, like, this, it's, like, it's still seen as, like, a choice to be fat, when it's not always the case.
If you want proof against that, my chronic illness makes it so I have to struggle to keep my weight. I have on several occasions gotten to the point where I was like, I've ended up in the hospital before, because of my chronic illness. Like, so yeah, that idea of like weight as a moral thing, requires ignoring a lot of the actual facts about it, but it also requires a lot of ignoring of like how health even works on a basic level as well.
And also like how mentality works around it too. Like I've made allusions to this, and I won't go into specifics for now, but I have struggled with eating disorders in my life and that sort of stuff. And I won't go into specifics on it at the moment. But it's tough, and it's not a moral failing on anybody. It's just there are different things that. Sorry, my brain is like also like
no,
like
okay.
crap.
And
I just ran into this tree guardian.
I don't think that I can speak for or about anti-fatness. Thank you for pointing that out, Sarah. I don't think I know enough about it to really comment on it beyond just like I do notice that a lot of people, are still doing that moralization thing, which still happens a lot with certain forms of disability and mental health. This idea of it being...
Honestly, what I need to do is I need to have Sarah on the stream at some point to talk about this, because Sarah is so knowledgeable at this.
Sarah actually knows.
Sarah knows her shit.
Okay, Killian, buddy, you're gonna like fuck up my computer.
And while you're dealing with that, while you're dealing with fucking up the computer, and I've died, I just want to quick address super chats real quickly. Wellington Smith, I'm fairly certain the transphobes and other bigots are working their abusive past in harmful, terrible ways. It's a complex discussion, but I believe that bigotry is seated in self-hatred. Quite often, yes. I will say, I spoke about often in my video on TERFs about how often TERFism quite often comes from places of trauma, though not exclusively, but quite often comes from places of trauma. Like, for example, how J.K. Rowling, for example, cited her own, experience as an abuse survivor to then justify her transphobic terribleness. And so that quite often is the case, that many bigots are utilizing their own trauma that has been supplemented in ways to target minorities rather than actually dealing with the actual systemic issues or the issues where they actually come from. I mean, honestly, like even in less traumatic ways, you look at like people like who are bigots in like white folks who are bigots in alt-right movements. A lot of the reason that they like attack minorities is a sense of anxiety that they come out of living under a capitalist systems. And so like that's not necessarily what you and I understand as trauma, but for many people in these groups, it's the most anxiety they've ever had in their lives, and so like they sublimate it onto minorities and groups instead of the actual real reasons for their anxiety and their sense of like, I'm being uncertain in the world. And so that's quite often the case, and TERFs are just a very clear example of that. I'm just gonna quick catch up on all these super chats really quickly.
Sarah made a really, really good point, which is skinny people get shamed, fat people die because we don't get healthcare.
Agreed. I'm not to cut you off. I'm gonna stop you just because I want to run through these super chats. Taco Bell alert! Thank you, Geek Filter. I'll order some Taco Bell in just a second because I actually need food badly. I can tell. Stay Hump 10. What would you do if J.K. Rowling contacted you and apologized for her statements? I'll answer this briefly and quickly. If she did that, which she wouldn't. But if she did, I would say she would need to state that publicly, and she would need to actually do the work to say, like, apologize to trans people, and then actually do the work to trying to rectify the harm that she has caused to the trans community. And if she's only going to try and make herself... And as someone who is a person with a platform, I have had people who have done harm, and I'm not going to name names, who have done harm, reach out to me and say, I apologize to you. And my response is, you need to state that publicly, or else there's nothing I can do for you, because I'm not gonna absolve you of your sins.
No, that's not an apology.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna absolve you of your sins. So if J.K. Rowling did that privately, I would say you need to say that publicly, and then you need to do the work to actually do that. That's the quick answer to that question.
I'm gonna be straight up, like, just from a material effects standpoint, J.K. Rowling would have to do a lot of material good to ever come close to combating what she did. Undoing harm means actually undoing the harm. Not just, oh, I'm sorry, I did a bad. Like, that does nothing for the people that are harmed. And in the case of J.K. Rowling, considering how much money she's pumped into certain things, until every single bill signed using her words is undone, she won't have earned it.
Yeah. Well,
that's
one would hope that she would be able to. It's one of those, like, there's a difference. I would want her to work towards the apology. Whether or not she could ever possibly earn it back, I don't know if she could. That being said, I would love to see her try.
I would like to see her try, and I think she could, but I'm saying that, like, she's built herself a very steep hill to climb.
Yeah, and I don't think she's still digging it, but that's beside the point. Anyways, I want to quickly go through these more. Hontus Farmer, for black people, simply being down with one party or another is not a viable option. Every bigot I have ever dealt with in Chicago has been a Democrat. Facts, the bigotry faces trans women is beyond politics. Yes, you are 100% correct on that front, Hontus Farmer. In fact, I'm actually working on a video that's probably after my James Gunn video and after my next Section Star Trek video. A video that I'm currently working on is how trans people are often tokenized and used by leftist spaces in order to further their agendas while casually discarding the issues that trans people face. And so, like, trans people are often used as tools, and especially white trans women are often used as tools because we're able to be tokenized and we're, like, easily digestible by a certain public consumption, and then trans people of color often get completely ignored or not even centered or seen or discussed at all, period. Full stop. So you're 100% correct. But as someone, again, I can't speak about this specific
just because it's a very American-centric thing. The Democrats are not a left-wing party at all in a global context.
Oh, yeah.
One. Two, the dichotomizing of politics into two parties and nothing else existing is very...
That's its own whole discussion.
Exercise.
It's its own whole discussion.
I don't know. There's a long conversation to be had there, but all I'll say is, while I get you have a very specific experience, I would like to point out that you're talking about two sides of the same coin, and acting like that's the entirety of politics, and that's not...
Oh, no, that's very true. You're correct. No, Democrats versus actual progressive politics is its own whole conversation, but yes, you are correct. Yeah. And I was also going to say, too, like, I can't speak about specifics, but I've just seen how, like, people who say that they are progressive don't actually do the work to do so. And again, you and I will talk offline about that.
Yeah, we can talk offline, but yeah, there's a certain type of creator who is a cis white dude and just loves to debate about our existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it in the video, and I fucking meant it. They are directly responsible, and to some degree, for the current state of bills like the ones in Texas and Florida, by making our existence debatable, and then doing a shit job of debating it. They contributed to that. Agreed. And I have only the deepest of disdain for all of those creators, pretty much.
Anyways, I want to make sure I get to the rest of these super chats real quickly, so I'm going to pause you real quick. Jimmy Nails, heart to you. Glad I didn't miss this completely. Hi again, Jessie and guest star. I missed your name. I hope you... Aronach, obviously. I hope you are all as well as they can be given... I hope all are as well as they can be given the world. Yeah, I hear you, Jimmy. The state of the world is not great at the moment. So, yeah, I send my love, as I said at the beginning of the stream. And then Golden Themin 13 says, if y'all like podcasts, I highly recommend Maintenance Phase for health debunking stuff. A lot of the work focuses on weight in the diet industry. Actually, I need that. And also, Sarah, hopefully you're still in the chat. I don't know if you are, but I actually want to get your recommendations on more discussions on fatness and like discussing anti-fatness, because I actually want to have more conversations about that as someone who let me put it this way, as I've alluded to already in this stream and in several other things, as someone who has struggled with weight issues, I want to start being more open about those issues and also talk about these issues on this channel. And I'm looking for more resources in how to have that conversation, because I feel like I want to have those conversations, but my ability to have those conversations is somewhat limited because I don't necessarily have the vocabulary that certain people have, even though it is issues that I've struggled with all my life, because I'm somewhat been... Let me put it this way. I have never been ashamed of my transness, especially as I've gotten further and further into my discussions of trans issues and talking about trans issues and talking about my transness. Like, since coming out and being open about that, I have never been ashamed of being trans. My issues with dealing with my weight are things that I am deeply struggling with quite often and still struggle with to this day. And I want to try to talk about that on this channel more, not just to talk about those issues necessarily, because I do want to talk about those issues a lot and I want to center those issues, but I also wish to use because I find I heal a lot through writing and talking about stuff, and so I want to try and use the discussion in order to help myself grow and help with myself in healing with these issues. So yeah, I want to talk more about that. So Sarah, you and I should talk at some point about that if we can. And everyone should be going to listen to Sarah's channel, The Costume Codex, because Sarah talks about these issues in such fantastic, wonderful ways. I mean, Sarah's the video that Sarah's had that went viral about Philosophy Tube's video is excellent, but like all of Sarah's videos are excellent and freaking amazing, and I adore her and all the work that she does, and y'all should be following her. And I have written down, by the way, who I'm just making sure I got the super chat. Goldthiman13. I've written that down, the maintenance phase, right here on this notepad. I am going to check that out. So thank you for recommending that, my friend. I appreciate that very much. Anywho, I know that we were just talking about all of that stuff. All right, so I'm gonna just focus on this game for a second, because I've been wandering around and I've been wanting to play this. So I think I'm supposed to talk like a few. However, there's one generation of hope even for the maidenless. Grace. Okay. So I think it's supposed to go this way. If anyone knows, again, I made a bad decision about, not a bad decision in the sense that I love having Aeronach here, a bad decision of this game. This game is very much like you kind of need to figure stuff out a little bit harder. It's harder to figure stuff out. And also having a guest and also drinking made this very difficult to figure out what I'm supposed to do in this game. So I'm going to try and figure out what I'm supposed to do at the moment. Getting started with all the discussion, no way I can multitask like that. Thank you, 811-414-812. I hope I'm doing all right. I feel like I haven't gotten any far at all. Like, I feel like the problem is, like, I know what I can battle, like, I can play mechanically a game, but, like, in a game that's open world like this, I have no idea where the hell I'm supposed to go at this point. So we'll see how it ends up. Anyways, but Aeronach, I do want to ask you a little bit more about, because I want to make sure to use this chance, because we haven't really talked about much, to talk about your video, because your video is actually really excellent, and I really appreciated it very much, because I think it hits on like so many topics that I really appreciate. So what do you want to talk about with your video? Because I'll sort of leave the platform to let you guide what you want to talk about.
I'm curious what about it, like, you would want to talk about, because, like,
well,
I need something to start with, you know, like, I can definitely go off and talk about it easily once I have a direction, but is there a specific aspect of it that like, you are curious about? I
mean, I could talk about the technical stuff a little bit, but, like, the technical stuff is, like, the stuff that I would be specifically interested in, but I want to like allow you to like talk about certain topics, because like we've found a few things that I really appreciated. I think we talked about like the studio, like the damnation of the studio executives at the end there, that I thought was the most powerful part of the video. But I also really, really loved how you broke down one of the things that I really appreciated very much, and thank you for the F's chat, is that you hit a point in the video where you basically said, all right, the Matrix is a movie that like is intrinsically, I mean, the whole concept of it is intrinsically trans, and you basically say like, no, it's not a. This is the point I'll hit on. It's like it's not that you have you.
It's not that there's a trans rating. It's that the film is so like the film is just trans. It'd be like watching Star Wars and then being like, what? I can see reading it as being about war. It's in the title. I don't know what else to say. it's that level of depth. Like,
exactly.
It's not just like, oh, there's a couple of little parallels here and there. It is every single scene and line of dialogue. There is so much stuff I left out. Like, this video was so much of like choosing the stuff that will hit the hardest every single time. And there are things that I mention, like Trinity's name. I could spend half an hour denoting every major mythological trinity and how it matters to the Matrix. So for the one I've decided to focus on is the one that most people are going to interact with, and I only mention it in one line where I pulled up, and I did it because it was useful because I had a cis person pointing out the gender bending nature of connecting it to the Christian Trinity. But if you actually listen to the entire of Ken Wilber and Dr. Cornel West's discussion, they bring up several other trinities, but they miss really, really, really key one, which is the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone Trinity in that is found within Gaelic myth, which again is connecting her to an intrinsic femininity, but it's also connecting her to things like the bag of I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Ken Wilber brings it up. I can't remember the word properly. It is a specific Indian, and I mean from India, not fucking up indigenous peoples of Canada and the U.S. India. It is a specifically Indian text, and it has a specific trinity that's relevant there, and they bring up how that connects to the thing. So like, there's stuff where I could just keep talking. The heavy connections between Alice and Matrix, like I could probably make an entire essay on just every bit of queerness in Wizard of Oz and its sequels and how they relate to the Matrix. Like that's how much there is on that. Then Bhagavad Gita, you're correct. Thank you, Louise. And I don't know enough about that to comment on it, but Ken Wilber and Dr. Arno West have a good conversation about it. If you like The Matrix, watch the Philosopher's commentary track. The critics' commentary track sucks, but the Philosopher's commentary track...
I mean, I feel like I want that for all of my movies, right? Like, can I just have the Philosopher's commentary track for all of my films?
It's far more interesting, but I think there's a line that goes by in about 1 millisecond. It's one joke, and I left in my laugh when I was recording it because I originally meant it to be like a very dry wit sort of delivery of like and like not acknowledge the joke, but I couldn't help that like while I was recording it, but the line is cis men are bad at reading films. Which is a bit harsh. I'm a bit jokey. I don't mean that all men are bad at reading films, or all cis men are bad at reading films, but it was a little expression of frustration I have with a certain style of YouTube creator. And if you pause the video right after, you'll see who I was laughing about. But Matt Pat's shitty Matrix video has lived rent-free in my head for 7 years.
I've never seen that.
Don't watch it. Game Theory and Film Theory are not worth watching. I don't know why I watched them for years. But Film Theory's terrible Matrix video has lived rent-free in my head for years because it like encapsulated this thing, and it took me a long time to like really be able to encapsulate all of what the Matrix meant to me. You know, now I get it. Oh, it's trans. I'm trans. Whoops. Didn't realize that at the time. But the reality is that like there is a lot of cis men who see film as a like logic puzzle, and they read everything from the surface, and that style of content has been very popular, and it's the underlying view of you know Everything Wrong With and Doug Walker, and where there's just no engagement with the actual artistic messages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like lore for lore's sake. Nothing else is being talked about.
And it's also like
battery. Sorry, if I can
sorry. Okay, please
do. The battery metaphor is such a simple, clear, obvious, and important metaphor to the Matrix. And I just don't know how you watch this film that brings up, and you acknowledge brings up, Baudrillard's work multiple times, and your response is, well, humans wouldn't make good batteries. That's a logical fail. It makes the movie bad. Like, or in the case of MatPat, which is far worse, he tries to solve it. And his solution is that they're actually within a second Matrix. And he's so close to getting it. He's so close to getting it. And I'm sitting there and I rewatched the video before releasing this video, and it's fascinating because if they just examined it like for 2 more seconds, they might be able to figure out what it's actually saying.
Well, it's also like the inability. It's this inability to like read metaphor or like take everything literally, and also take everything like that has to be from their perspective. That like film cannot have perspective that is separate from their own cis male perspective. And like being like anything that sort of eschews a cis male perspective is sort of like is wrong or bad or is a mistake of the film, or is like somehow like they can't view themselves as other in any case. Like I'm not like
they can't approach the world from a different perspective, and it's why like because they can't experience the Matrix from a marginalized perspective, they cannot fucking understand the Matrix.
Exactly. Like it's exactly the thing. And then they equate like feeling uncomfortable with marginalization. It's like no. Feeling comfortable is not being marginalized. And so that one, they just can't put themselves in other people's perspectives because the world has so catered that perspective and that viewpoint for so long that it's just an inability to place themselves into different viewpoints. It's a problem that I have with Star Trek up until the modern day. I love Star Trek till the modern day, but it always centralizes like minority issues through a like cis straight white perspective. Perspective is like, oh, let's talk about these issues instead of actually like representing them authentically within themselves. Which is why I love Star Trek. Like problems with Star Trek Discovery aside, one of the elements I love of the last season or 2 of Discovery.
I really love the second half of season 2 and all of season 3, and I still need to watch season 4.
I think you'll like season 4 a lot in that.
I think I will like season 4 a lot, but I find Discovery one of the most fascinating turnarounds because I think season 1 is one of the worst attempts at discussing marginalized people in the entirety of the series.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. But
fascinating,
100%.
And we know why. It's the creators were specific
tools,
people.
Giant tools.
Yeah. They treated everybody that worked terribly, and they shouldn't work in Hollywood. Like,
yep.
I feel confident and comfortable saying that. I don't think people who abuse their coworkers should have power and influence.
Yes, and also being clear, by the way, everyone, just so everyone knows, we are talking about people that ran Discovery in season 1. The people who run Discovery now are separate people.
Who were specifically fired for that treatment of other employees. Like, to be very clear, this isn't a like, oh, I'm speculating and 1 or 2 people said something. No, like
they were fired for it.
They were fired for it. There is legal stuff involved. Like, that's how bad it was. And Hollywood very rarely will fire people for doing stuff like that. Like, it has to be pretty extreme for it to get acknowledged and engaged with in any meaningful way.
Yes. But also one other thing I was to say, just backpedaling a little bit on one other thing too, just not to get sidetracked in the Star Trek conversation. I know, me backpedaling on a Star Trek conversation. But I also would say, like, the other problem with, like, art interpretation that I see with a lot of people is, like, everything has to be literal. Like, you're talking about the battery stuff, like, oh, we have to take the batteries as literal and it can't be metaphorical, even if, like, the film itself is, like, a much
stating it's a metaphor,
like stating it's a metaphor, and even like it's just like it's also like realizing that art can be multiple things. Is like we can think about reality and think about the world in ways different than exactly how we think about it today, and we can have more metaphorical relationships and more. Art can be less than like, let's just write down reality, and have it be more like, we can talk about, I think this is what I want to say. Many cis straight white men, again, not vilifying the identity, but like many cis straight white men are told to eschew emotionality, eschew viewing worlds from an emotional perspective. And a lot of art is about emotion. And so when art tries to portray the world more from a way of viewing what it would feel like emotionally rather than literally, then it becomes a difficult for many people for many cis straight white men to relate to. Whereas many people from marginalized communities, because we have been so taught in media to not think about media in a literal sense, because we are not literally able to be the protagonist of the film, we are supposed to have meant to invest in the emotionality of these characters. We are more able to accept a story that is more based on emotional perspective than quite literally like factual literal perspective. And like it's also why when I'll go back to Star Trek as the go-to example. It's why when I like talk about Star Trek, why I love Discovery, especially the past 2 seasons of Discovery, is that it centers emotionality about these issues and about the future in a way that the original series and like other shows didn't. People like, I see many cis straight white dudes react like angrily at that because like, this is emotional Trek, it's so stupid, why are they always crying all the time? It's like, that's what I love about the show, because it's talking about what emotionally we would feel in these situations and centralizes emotional weight as opposed to like the literal like, what's it like being in space sort of thing. So
yeah, I think that's what the value of like, I love Discovery's emotionality. As LK puts it, it's kind of himbo Trek. Like it's all feelings all the time, and that's the best part. It's way better storytelling because it's about feelings. Because, and so that's what I was trying to emphasize with this about it is like, and I keep reiterating this over and over and over and over again. It's like, this is a representation of the emotional experience of being trans. Will not be like, and
just because it literally doesn't have trans people like specifically overtly in it does not mean it's not in a trans movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a trans movie because 2 closeted trans people wrote the emotional experience of being trans into the film, and also, you know, wanted explicit trans characters to be in the film.
That too.
But also, like, even if we ignore the author's intent, even if we ignore that, the fact is that trans people have been reading themselves in The Matrix since they saw it on day 1 of the theater release. This isn't me speculating. I know trans people who older trans people who were around then. Like this film has always been so deeply trans, and like the fact is that queer. Okay, you're fine. Clayton was making noises. Queer people in general, we've had to read ourselves into work, and that's why I did this video after doing the first era of Unintentionally Queer. Like, that is a setup. I'm making a point about how, like, hey, we learned a bunch of things to read ourselves into stuff. So what happens when we purposefully put all those things into practice? You get Deep Space Nine, you get The Matrix, and you get Lego Batman, which is the other 2 videos I'm doing in this era of the show, because Unintentionally Queer is a 3-part thing. I don't even know what to really call it. The first part was works that have no fucking intention. Like, I could not find a single piece of evidence that anyone involved, maybe there's an actor or something. Like, I think Michael Sheen was doing it on purpose in Tron Legacy, but like, outside of him, as far as I know, none of them are purposefully doing that. But it's there. It's all there. It's all based in queer metaphor. And again, it's like, that's our history and like our way of doing art. And so we read ourselves into stuff. And so I talk about the value of reading ourselves into that, but also the frustration that we need to, and we really shouldn't have to. And like, why that matters is another layer on top that was really important for me to make with those first couple videos. And part of this is, if you go back and watch those videos, part of my support for those films having queer readings is their intertextual relationship to the Matrix and the Matrix metaphors. So, because I always knew I was making this video, like this was the end goal.
Oh yeah, you stated as such, and I figured as much.
Yeah.
No! Ah! Damn. Sorry, I was doing so well. I was doing so well against that boss. Anyways, apologies. I just died, and I feel like I was doing so well, and then he just one shots me like a jerk, like a stupid freaking jerk. Anyways.
Well, and it's this thing of like, yeah, we read ourselves into stuff because we had to. But then we also had to write ourselves in metaphorically. That's where those metaphors were created and crafted. And so every time people go, no, it's not true, it can't be queer because it's not literally that, it's literally just another layer to that history of disenfranchisement. And fundamentally, the basis of transphobia is saying your perspective on the world isn't real.
And also it goes back to even further otherizing. It goes into otherizing like trans perspectives as like literally inhuman, because like one of the things that I constantly fight back is that like people saying like, oh, I cannot relate to your experience because you're a trans person. It's like trans people are human. Just because I am trans doesn't mean like the emotions that I feel or how I can understand the world is so like you're so unable to understand and express it that you like can't understand as a cis person. Like just because my feelings of anxiety about the world or my relationship identity tend to be expressed through gender does not mean that you can't relate to it as a cis person. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring up a quote from the video really quick.
Can I, Owen? Sorry, Owen. Owen might have just some examples.
So Maddie Thorson in her this is from the video, but I just fucking love this quote so much. I'm really happy when I realized that I should include it, and I was like, Bellamy, can you read this really quick? Sorry, distracted by Gambit.
Please do.
Wait, sorry, one sec. Control F, Maddie. Okay, so in her blog thing, she says she responds to the hypothetical question that was based on real questions she got. Was Madeline's transness left intentionally vague in order to make her story more relatable to cis people? That wasn't our intention. Thinking about it, though, it begs the question, why couldn't a cis person relate to a trans person? Modern trans struggle might be unique in its details, but it is definitely not alien to the human condition. We are people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that
And,
quote.
like... that's the entire point of the video. I'm just like, the fact that upon hearing the film is trans, that negatively affects your ability to watch the film? Maybe...
If that was the case, I could never watch another like mainstream movie again because I guess I can't relate to the cis straight dude.
People, and it's just I'm so tired of it, but also like the underlying hatred in being like, well, like I don't know. It's just this thing of like every time you say the Matrix isn't trans, what you're really saying is that like you cannot see a trans perspective.
Which is so funny because I feel like. This is the thing that I get really frustrated about, is I actually feel like our trans perspective is one of the most relatable experiences, just because, like, our experience, our like, there's a reason that The Matrix spoke to so many people, and why it was one of the most freaking popular movies of all time, is because the anxiety that film displays, that is intrinsically trans, as you argue, is relatable to so many people, especially living under the system of, like, capitalism which tries to put everything into tiny little boxes that must be defined in specific ways, and that we need to like monetize and like find a way to make marketable to every single person. Like it's just like trans identities are not unrelatable. They're sometimes the most relatable, I feel like, because we literalize in the world feelings that people often feel intrinsically within themselves.
I think we, to a degree, we kind of represent the physical expression of change to a lot, like, as well. Like, but like, I'm sorry, but
also I'm gonna keep listening, but I also need to order some food, so I'm gonna quick
order your food. most people can and should be able to relate with feeling like an outsider sometimes, and the process of learning about yourself and growing up, like those aspects. While you can't maybe understand a lot of the specifics or the depths, I think of these things.
I'm listening. I'm just ordering. So you're all good. Remember I'm sorry, Owen. I promise I'll remember the jump maneuver. I'm just using my Dark Souls like experience. Also, can I tell you, Aronok? I have discovered. People found out I discovered last week that there's a place near where I live that sells breakfast food for dinner, and I have. It is a problem because I have been ordering it several times this week because it's like, oh god, I just want breakfast food for dinner. Let's see. Chicken and biscuits. Let's see. Where was the one that I ordered last week? Because it was really good. Oh, do I want a breakfast burrito? I feel like I want a Chat, I need your help. Should I order a breakfast burrito or should I order like hash brown and eggs? Oh, but eggs Benedict. It's so hard. The choices.
The choices.
I hate the choices.
So, like that part is so important in the video, and it's this thing of like every time someone denies the transness of the Matrix, it feels like having someone just fucking spit on your life experiences to tell me that isn't like a trans. Like, yeah, it's a denial of the trans experience because it's saying that like that's not what you're experiencing. You like when we explain it, because it's like, well, no, that. The film is just a representation of our experiences to a highly specific degree. Sure.
And I ordered the burrito, by the way, everyone. So sorry.
Nice. And this is like it's the point that I hope someone will notice like more heavily that is into philosophy. But I think the best point of the video, one of my favorite points anyway, is when I'm talking about Baudrillard and Baudrillard's concepts, and sorry, I'm trying to snipe.
You're all good. You're all good.
Is that Baudrillard, through this little hissy fit about like, it doesn't represent my philosophy perfectly, and I'm like, yeah, because it's not trying to. Trans people don't experience the world in the same way, and by purposefully breaching the representation of simulation in that way and focusing instead on a more closely connected to the Plato's allegory of the cave conversation, what it's doing is more directly connecting to the very specifically trans experience of there being a clear line between out and being in the closet. There being a clear line between certain illusions and the simulation and the territory within society that cis people cannot see that differentiation between the simulation, the map that has surpassed the territory. They can't see it. Whereas trans people can, right? Neo's powers literally involve seeing the simulation, the separation between the worlds. And, in Baudrillard's critique, he talks about. There's gonna be a lot more Baudrillard if we ever get the Matrix. If I hit $300 on a month on Patreon,
I will fund that personally. If you don't hit that soon.
The follow-up is called "The Matrix Resurrections Says I'm Right," and. Sorry, I'm distracted by things. Very ADHD. But the, sorry.
No, you're good. Sorry, I'm trying to remember where you were at because I was just also trying not to die there. Also, I keep looking at this dude right here. I don't know if you can see it. He looks like. Why does this guy look like Santa Claus? This guy just looks like Santa Claus here.
Yeah, and so with Matrix Resurrections, right, what it does is, because of the changes in the way that queerness has been sort of interlaced with society to a degree, it brings together those two worlds, the differentiations between them, into a much less neat line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of in some ways a slight representation of the way that we have advanced in acceptance, right? The relationship between the machines and humans are very, very different. There are allies, right? And what makes them allies is that they put themselves into physical danger, that they actively engage in the fight for liberation. And they do so willingly. That's what makes them allies as machines, and that's what makes them also, to a degree, freed from the shackles of the system, but in a different way. Because, hey, allocis heteronormativity actually hurts every allocis heteronormative person.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of that, and so.
I also feel bad.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, you're good. Sorry, I just feel bad right now because I'm like trying to figure out what to do with this game and I have no idea what's happening. Anyways, you're saying.
Yeah. So it's like there's a. But that one's open world, so you can just kind of wander around. Like
I know, but I feel like there's like supposed to be an end goal that I'm not going towards at the moment. Anyways, you were saying. Apologize. I mean, you were saying something more important.
Yeah. So like, Baudrillard's critique is like, oh, I'd like to see them like kind of merge those things together more, and I'm like, well. Yeah, but it needs to be relative to the conversation around queerness. And the thing is that the queerness of the Matrix affects and redirects every other conversation it has. Everything else is contextualized within that queerness. And so any other message is often trampled on. The politics and philosophy of the first Matrix films is often messier than its sequels because it is so focused on specifically just being a trans metaphor first and foremost, to a degree that is kind of ridiculous. And this is why I really recommend everybody watch Sarah and Sophie's video. The Matrix sequels are good, actually, because they cover a lot of that side of it, which is that the sequels are much more politically, philosophically coherent, because they're not just being a metaphor and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, can I be honest with you? Matrix Reloaded is my favorite Matrix movie.
Oh, fucking valid. I fucking love the Matrix sequels. Matrix Reloaded might be my favorite just because we get the most badass Morpheus moments.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Morpheus is my favorite character other than Trinity. They're tied. I fucking love them so much. And Smith in a very different way. I wouldn't say he's my favorite character, but I just fucking love that performance to a horror aspect.
Oh, I think so too. And it's interesting. I think I'm being So if I'm being self-critical and self-critical of my own. Oh, is there a cutscene here? Sorry. Oh wow, I get a cutscene. I actually advanced a thing. But being. I'm just waiting for whatever this game is going to tell me because I was just about to say something I feel like is mildly revealing of who I am as a person, but something's happening here. There's a creepy. I don't know where you're at and you're watching of the channel or not or anything like that, but
yeah.
Hi, creepy hooded lady.
So you're saying something Reloaded being your favorite?
Sorry, there's just a cutscene in this game. I'm surprised. This game has more cutscenes than I think every Dark Souls game put together, but it's fine. I'm a pretty lady. That's what I was hiding underneath the hood. I'll take an accord. Okay. Finger maidens. Oh, so you are the person. Got it. You're gonna be the person that helps me level up. Okay. Anywho, so I just met the person who helps me level up, I think. Yep, there we go. There it is. Okay. With level up money, you can spend runes to increase your attribute. There it is. That's what I was looking for this entire time. I'm like, how do I beat this dude if I can't level up or crap? There we go. Okay. That makes way more sense now that I've... Okay. And now I have a... Okay. Okay. I've been trying to fight this... Sorry. I've been trying to fight this stupid boss for forever. And now I'm like, oh, okay. Now I actually know what I'm supposed to do. Anyways, Anywho, what I was saying before, one of the character that probably most interests me within the Matrix is Agent Smith, And I think it's interesting because it just shows I think it's revealing of my own personal fascination with how people fall into lines of bigotry and into like doling out harm towards marginalized groups. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a good or a bad thing or putting a value judgment on it, but it's actually just talking to you right now. It just like kind of reveals to me it's like the fact that I personally find Agent Smith to be the most my favorite character is, again, probably the wrong word, but like the most fascinating character to me personally.
No, I think he's the most fascinating character because I think he's one of the best written examples of like real bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
But it's also like why I like wrote my. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Sorry, apologies.
No. Like part of what was important to me with writing Smith and performing Smith was capturing that aspect.
Which, by the way, your voiceover for Smith is really spot on great. By the way,
I love doing that voice,
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson, you're discussing my existence without letting me talk? How dare you? I'm not quite landing the voice right now.
No, that was actually really good. That was actually surprisingly good. But yeah, sorry. But yeah, no, it's interesting because like one of the things that I was just like questioning. So I'm writing my James Gunn video, right?
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating is like what I appreciate, why I like James Gunn's work and why James Gunn's work is interesting to me is like he does break down toxic masculinity in a way that is kind of really fascinating from a perspective of a man, James Gunn himself, who dealt with himself going through that same process of healing from toxic masculinity. And so his films are all kind of working that out and like him dealing with that. But then as I'm like writing my script, I'm like, why am I spending time writing about James Gunn when I could also write like something about like a trans issue or whatever? And just because you think about it, I think it just shows what I find interesting about it is just like I find James Gunn's work to be interesting because he teaches me, like I find particularly learning how people fall into these toxic systems and behaviors to be interesting. And so I find James Gunn specifically interesting because he both experiences it and talks about it within his own work. So I like relate is the wrong word. I appreciate and really love James Gunn's empathy for people in a way that I find fascinating, that I sort of also deal with in my work, that I like sometimes is hard for me and problematic for me too. Like there's times where like I probably extend too much empathy for people who do harm. And so there's just that constant like conversation that I think is just really interesting. And so like bringing that back to what we're talking about when we're talking about Agent Smith, like I find Agent Smith particularly fascinating because I think that like that's just my proclivities is to try to understand and break down where people fall into these toxic and bigoted mindsets. So yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing. So,
well, I think there's an aspect of like staring into the abyss sometimes.
Well, I think we all have a fascination with that too. Like, why do you think like flat earther documentaries or alt-right documentaries are so popular? You know,
like, I think we're all a little bit, to some degree. I'm going to call it it's a form of morbid fascination, which is like a well-documented thing that human beings do. We will get like fascinated with how fucked up things work, just because there is something inherently fascinating about that. There's something about looking at these fucked up things. I think, but like.
Well, I mean, it's in Dark Souls too. Like, why do we look at like the grotesque?
Like
you know?
Fascination with it. I think it's in some ways the same thing as like being fascinated with death and discussions around death and stuff. Like all these sort of, we want to understand. Naturally, I think, and so things, and I think, for people like ourselves, who want to understand, and are very curious. There's a degree of wanting to understand why people do horrible things to us.
It's also self-preservation too, right?
It's self-preservation to a degree as well. I think I definitely, yeah, I definitely saw, and like, from what I know, James Gunn has treated the people he works with quite well. I think he just, has some fucked up views that he's had to dismantle, and I think to a degree he has been, working through those things with his art. Like, I do think that part of what makes Peacemaker such a powerful and fascinating piece is that it is unrelentingly critical of Peacemaker. It never apologizes for him. I was so worried that it would kind of do that thing of like, oh, but he's also hurt, so like you can't really it's like
the whole thing is like he's shitty, but he's able to
the fact that he's been hurt and then he's putting out that hurt into the world is actually like a failure of him. That is him fucking up. Like, that is not okay. And that's great. I love that. I want to see more of that.
Oh, sorry. You go for it.
No. Because like,
oh god,
I don't know. I think it's fucking good that we have a show that is explicitly, very, very, very explicitly saying, white men need to kill their Nazi forefathers. Like, that is the message of James Gunn's Peacemaker. And I don't think it's about literally parents or literal murder. What it means is you need to kill the fucked up things that you learned from people in your life that is existing rent-free in your head. And in the case of Peacemaker, right, there's a reason why the last shot is him sitting with the brain's representation of those beliefs. Like, again, and I worry that a lot of men are not going to get the message of the show fully, that is metaphor. Like, it's not that I know there's gonna be some ableist ass readings of this film, like this show. There's gonna be ones that are be like, Peacemaker's crazy. I want to be clear. I am someone with a personality disorder. I'm not throwing that word around lightly. I'm mocking the way that it gets used against people like myself. No, I will not talk about my personality disorder. I don't talk about that publicly. That's all the details you get. Anyway, I'm just putting my boundaries. That's not to you, Jesse. That's just more to chat. But
believe me, I know. You didn't have to explain. Yeah. You're all good.
So for myself, like, it's this thing of like, the show is doing a really great job of saying that, like, what James Gunn's I don't know. I think it's pretty shocking and amazing to see a white man who's a creator put in someone that feels, to a degree, like a self-critique that is so explicitly horrible.
Well, that's what that is what I talk about in the video. Like, I go through and be like, this is what James Gunn dealt with in his own life at this point, and this is what he started to write about in his own films. So, like, for example, I talk about when I start with Slither, and I'd be like, Slither is literally about a toxic masculine dude, trying to own and possess this woman, Elizabeth Banks's character, and like trying to control her and like literally like glorifying her femininity while also like putting her also seeing other women, like the woman who gets turned into like the thing that just makes the little slither monster things, like seeing her as like just intrinsically a whore, so it falls into the Madonna horror dichotomy. Anyways, so the whole film is quite literally about toxic masculinity trying to enact its worldview upon the world and the women in the world, and like literalizing toxic masculinity viewpoints upon the world, through his marriage. At the same time, James Gunn's marriage was falling apart because he was being a toxic masculine dude. Like, he broke the girl who played Pam on he was married to the girl who played Pam on The Office. I forget her name off the top of my head. Apologies to her. But he was breaking up with her. His marriage to her was falling apart at that exact moment. So the film is ultimately like a self-reflective critique of his own toxic masculine views. And he even spoke about this years later in a BuzzFeed interview, where he literally stated in the interview, was like, I didn't realize at the time, but I was showcasing in that movie my own realization that I was the fucked up one in my own marriage, and that I was the one that was pushing her away. And so like that's the repeated refrain throughout his entire career, I feel like, is that like he displays these horrible things, and like his movies have these horrible things in them, very toxic masculine views in them, but they're also self-critiquing himself at the same time. And so as he grows as a person, so does his like work as an artist. I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's productive to have these conversations about change through a works of art. Like, I don't know, I think James Gunn writes art in the same way that I write art, and you that self-reflection that's constantly existent in it. I don't know, like I keep a pretty strict sort of separation to a degree between like myself and the sort of idealized or sometimes purposefully flawed self that I present in video essays and things. It's part of why I've started to get a little bit uncomfortable with having myself on screen so much during them. I wanted to put more distance between the parasocial building relationship, even though I know that negatively impacts the ability to get reach.
Well, yeah, it talks about that tension that we talked about earlier, like not wanting to aggrandize yourself as well, like within works. Like, it's a frustrating thing, right? So.
Yeah, like, if people want a tiny teaser of the Matrix Resurrection script,
I'll do it. Yeah, give it to me.
I'm gonna go find a little passage. Yeah. Part 4. There's, as of right now, the script is very chunks, but you don't know me. This isn't made for you. The Matrix Resurrections is a piece not made for the same audience as most media. It's so heavily made for Lana on a personal level and for a queer and particularly trans audience, so much so that it alienates the people most heavily attempting to co-opt the original Matrix film. I was basically vibrating in my seat out of excitement at how much the film reinforced the conclusion of The Matrix is intrinsically trans, which multiple people can attest that I wrote and read it to them before Resurrections released. So much of media over the last 2 decades has been dedicated to making a specific audience feel entitled to being the sole perspective in discussing art, and especially art that is pop culture. This assumption that all media is made exclusively and inherently for one audience, first and foremost, 30 to 40-year-old cis white dudes, that it is to be specifically understood through their viewpoint, underlies a lot of the worst aspects of media discourse online. It's why kids' cartoons get discussed in such a weird way. They think it's made for them. So when something doesn't cater to them, they say it's bad art, because they approach art as being something that they think can be objectively measured, when they're really just approaching it from a single perspective to the exclusion of all others. I mean, look at how they got angry that the underage teenage girl empowerment character She-Ra wasn't made for the male gaze. Which, seriously, what the fuck? You shouldn't be looking for sexual desire in the visuals of an underage character. It's also why they're so bad at understanding the original Matrix. They refuse to approach it from a trans perspective. The Matrix Resurrections actively rejects these fans, calls them agents, and mocks them. Neo's handler is played by this actor because he's played the stereotypical nerd in many other films. If I'd been clever, I would have wrote this discussion of fandom into the original... one sec. I'm going to get distracted by games. I'm gonna go to orbit so I can finish reading this properly. If I'd been clever, I would have wrote this discussion of fandom into the original script to layer onto and reinforce my points at the end. Oh, wait, I purposely chose not to. I wrote this before finishing that essay and chose not to include it so I could lie to you right now. This is a simulation of sincerity, curated and created by me. I have edited out the mistakes, removed the messy parts, and ran this past a number of people. The medium of video essays conveys an additional layer of familiarity to you, the audience, that doesn't exist in many other formats. It's also why I stopped using on camera as much. I worried about how much that could increase the level of parasocial attachment between you and me. Every decision I make is exact and specific and carefully created. Did you notice that the reflection on the table of me in the original video is clear because I'm speaking truth, but muddy for Smith, who has less relationship to truth? I chose to be highly specific with details. I also will sometimes leave mistakes in on purpose because it makes it more relatable. Or am I just saying this to make you think genuine mistakes are done with intent? I refuse to satisfy you with an explanation. I'm trying to kill your parasocial view of me, which is an inherently futile performance because it will inevitably increase it, as this is seen as a particularly sincere act. Let's be clear, parasocial attachment is not inherently negative. You should feel things towards my art. It's why I make it. I want you to feel a parasocial relationship towards the simulacra of me you experience by watching these videos, particularly ones on topics around marginalization, because if you empathize with these genuine pieces of myself, then you might receive the messages I'm crafting more readily. You might see the humanity of people like me more readily. I just worry that the proximity of this art will also make you feel that the relationship is more than parasocial. And one of the questions in the final for linguistics last semester, we were asked to discuss the unique linguistic aspects of a piece of text, and we had to do independent research for citation. I found a thesis paper on the purposes of language within poetry, but found it deeply applied to sections of art I've already made, and then I'm going to go off into a thing about Midnight Mass and that linguistics paper and stuff. But yeah, that's a little idea of what the Matrix Resurrections video would be like.
That's really good. I'm very excited for that. That's going to be great.
If you're interested, support the Patreon.
Have a good night, Sister Abigail. But yeah, dang. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because, and I apologize to chat that I'm not specifically focused on. Okay. There's some other stuff, but like, that people have mentioned. But I think it's interesting, right? Because like, this whole idea of how we cater our stories and identities through a somewhat parasocial way is like part of like how people relate to art, because people often aggrandize the creators. Like even my James Gunn video, right? A lot of it is like what he has put out there and like talked about. And that is selectively catered. So it's like there's an element of like his story that I'm like relating to, but that is also like him catering how he wishes the context of the narrative of his own art to be made in some ways. But then sometimes that art like gets catered in ways that is not necessarily what the creator wants, but also becomes a prevailing narrative. Like we look at the reevaluation of like creators like J.K. Rowling, Joss Whedon, how like the narrative around their art has somewhat shifted because of our relationship to those creators in those same senses, and like the story of those creators. It's interesting how the stories of creators often influences our perspective on the art itself, and our relationship to the art itself. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, I think we need to get away from this very binarized, simplified conversation where people go parasocial bad. No, that's not how this works.
God, there's so many of these soldier people. Oh my God. Anyways, sorry. But yeah, no, like, I don't think parasocial is an inherently bad thing. Like, as someone who, like, I both benefit and, like, also suffer from parasocial relationships in some ways, and, like, it's a conversation that goes. I think that, like,
it's a conversation having to have.
Yeah.
It's that, here's the thing. All forms of relationship are prone to and capable of being harmful. Parasocial relationships just happen to be the most capable of being that because they're so one-directional. There is no communication directly back and forth. Well, there kind of is. But
it's not directly back and forth.
It's not direct.
But it does.
There is a parasocial relationship between the creator and the audience as a body politic, basically. I don't know a better term for it. I apologize. There's probably a better term out there, but like I think
it's not inaccurate.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna need a second.
No, you're all good. Well, I also want to make sure I mention the chat. Like people are also mentioning like Peach Fuzz, like Aloy's Peach Fuzz. We were talking about video games earlier, and like the like. You mentioned like Shira and the Princess of Power being sexualized, and like we're talking about like I was playing last week like Horizon Zero Dawn, and like how Aloy is I freaking love Aloy as a character so freaking much in the Horizon games, but then how like many like dudes like were like, oh, Aloy's been made more like masculine. I'm like, that's just how women look. Regardless of, that's just how cis women look, regardless of even putting like a trans like perspective on it. It's like that's just how women in general fucking look. And it's just like fucking just this like weird need to cater to this over sexualized gaze that like especially in video games like that were so catering to a male perspective, like a male perspective, a straight male perspective, for so long, where it's like, oh look, we made the triangles on Lara Croft like huge. Look how you can masturbate to the triangles that were her boobs. You know, it was just it's a whole thing.
Yeah, no, it's complicated. Sarah brings up a good point too. The strange relationship between creators when we're both simultaneously social and parasocial, existing in a sort of middle space between the two, because you and I both know things about each other due to parasocial interaction purely, right? But at the other end of it, we also have a social relationship, and then we have a whether we intend it or not, this is the reality of camera works the way it works. A third tier, which is social, but in a viewership context, which affects the way we behave.
I mean, like you and I, we even earlier today, we like there's, I mean, earlier in the stream was like there's things that we're, and no offense to you, audience, but it's like there's things that we like Aronok and I know that we can't.
We can't say this publicly. We can't talk about this here.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting...
Well, it's too, like, for example, I'll use another example too. Like, for example, I recently appeared on Sean Ferrick. For those of you who don't know, Sean Ferrick he's a host on Trek Culture, which I love. I adore Trek Culture, and in particular, Sean I think is one of my favorite creators on Trek Culture. I think he does a fantastic job there. But he and I, while we have interacted on Twitter quite a bit, he and I had never like physically. And even now we haven't physically spoken. We never actually like interacted together in so long. And so that he and I just like, I think 2 weeks ago, he had me on his podcast. And so he and I we sat down, and, like we entered the Zoom call and we started talking to each other. And it was like a full 10 minutes where we were just talking back and forth to each other. And we realized like, this is the first time we were talking to each other, and yet we're talking to each other like old friends. And it's because in some ways, like he has seen me in my videos. So there's like a parasocial relationship. Like I've seen him in his videos and he's seen me in his videos, so I have a sense of his personality from the parasocial relationship, which is true. Like not every single creator's like personality on screen is one-to-one with who they are in real life. And in fact, no, it's never one-to-one in real life, but some people are able to put more of themselves than not on screen. And so like when I talked to Sean, I got the impression that it was like, oh, he's being fairly authentic in a lot of his displays. And there's no judgments on people who aren't like putting, like, there's no judgments on that, by the way. I'm just saying that there's a difference, obviously. But when I spoke to Sean, like he understood me, I understood him, and then we just talked to each other like we knew each other, and then we'd had interactions with each other in Twitter, and we had understood, like we like knew each other and had conversations with each other, and then so when we met each other, we like kind of knew each other. We had some semblance of conversations, and we actually like talked to each other like friends. And then we realized we had never actually spoken to each other again, like ever before. And then we sort of realized like, oh, we should actually be like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And we did that 10 minutes into our first conversation. And so like the complex interplay between parasocial relationships, online relationships solely, it's always a complex interplay.
There's like 10 layers going on.
And so, like, with all of, like, for you, like, you know an element of me, Aronok. Like, you in the chat, like, my audience, too, like, you know elements of me. Because it's like, you don't know like, you in the audience, you don't know the totality of me. But also, like, you do know a large part of my time is spent talking to you and my audience, you know? So it's it's like, it's not like what you see of me is like inauthentic in the sense that like I am portraying myself to you right now, you know? It's like, it's a complex, like layered into it.
Discussing it is taking a little metaphor from my coming out video, which is we're complex three-dimensional mosaics, and we show different facets of ourselves. But like I don't have the full picture of myself even. I'm constantly learning new things about myself. I think we all are, right? So the idea that people can like really, really, really know us from media is also just flawed in and of itself at a different level. But also like the idea that can find the right word. Sorry,
no, you take your time. I'm sorry, I'm also just leveling up too, so I'm like trying to figure out how to do my build here. I feel like I'm probably gonna do. I need to upgrade my strength too. Or actually, no.
Yeah. So, like, I think it's complex. I think there's a couple of things that I do to try to really mitigate unhelpful or unproductive interactions with people that I have a parasocial experience of, which I think is part of why I genuinely seem to do. Most of the people I've talked to whose videos I've seen before I met them, who I like a lot, you know, we tend to get along really well. But One is like, don't talk as if I know the person, because I don't, right? I just don't. I can't. It's not possible. Two is sorry, my brain's kind of.
No, you're good. Sorry, I'm also just like I just met.
No, you're all good.
Interesting. Sorry, I just got a level up thing in this game. With Spirit Calling Bell, you can use ashes to summon various spirits. Summoning typically consumes FP. You can summon one type of spirits you cannot summon in multiplayer. Sorry, I'm just like learning stuff in the game.
How it goes. Yeah. So like when I met Lady Knight, who's probably one of my closest friends in my life, full stop. We're very close, but like that's a relationship we built up over a really, really long time. But when I first met her, I'd seen all of her videos. But like to me, I was like, I'm just meeting a new person. I know nothing about this person. Like that's how I generally try to treat it. Is to not treat it as some sort of special thing, because people are just people, and also like I don't know the person. I mean, I've seen their art and I appreciate their art, but it has as much information given to me to a degree as like looking at someone's painting. And generally I also try to like acknowledge that, like, hey, I really like your art. I compliment the work, not the person. And that sounds weird, but I actually feel uncomfortable when people compliment me. I know most people do, but I feel quite comfortable when people compliment my art. And I think it's also just like, again, it's like keeping that healthy, like, I don't know you yet, and then you can have a building relationship over a period of time where you get to know each other, where you get to understand each other. And that that's healthy and important, that we
Sorry, I'm also facing a boss right now, so I'm like, oh god.
No, you're all good. Yeah, so like I think I just think a lot of people don't have any experience with interacting with people that they have a parasocial interaction with, whereas like I've had to do it so many times that I just like it's just kind of a nothing thing for me now, in a good way, I think, in a healthy way.
Yeah, no, it's true, and by the way, yeah, I love the Ghost of Zoe, and I appreciate that.
Example is you.
Yeah.
I saw your videos before I met you, and I guess likewise to a degree.
Yeah, no, exactly, and also I think my food is here, so I might need to run and get it.
Grab your food.
Let me just quick make sure I can go get it, but I'll be right back, everybody. So 1 second. Wha.
Yeah, I think that's
Hi,
really
are you
helpful.
outside?
What? Yeah, so I definitely agree, Sarah. Like focusing
I'll
on
be right down. I'll come and find you. So 1 second. I'll be right down.
Separate from the work, separate from the human. Yeah, like I tend to build the connection in reverse, and for me, like that, I think is the healthier way of doing it, which is noticing the ways that people suffuse themselves into their art rather than trying to apply their art to them, if that makes sense. I don't know, it's always interesting. I definitely have a very different relationship with people's art that I know personally to a deep degree. Like, I have a very different experience of watching LK's videos now than I did when I first met her, just as an example. Because I know her so well, and we know each other, and we talk so much about our art before we create it, right? And while we create it, and we often give each other feedback. And so, I don't know, it's interesting how much that changes things. Same with like David J. Bradley, like he and I are very, very close, and they're just a lovely person as well. And yeah, it's
Ugh. I got my food. There we are.
yeah.
What did I miss? Are we talking about
no.
Newt in the chat? I see.
Oh, nice. Kitties are great. Yeah, I got a cat. His name's Killian.
Oh,
He's-
yay.
He's my best boy.
Newt,
He
Newt is somewhere.
absolutely adores me. He's sleeping in the background.
Oh. Newt, I bought Newt a tower, like one of those towers that you have right there for Christmas. I was like, I'm going to get Newt a tower because I've been wanting to get him a tower. And he has like such a love-hate relationship with it. It's kind of funny. He like loves to scratch at it, and he will be at it when I'm watching TV in the room. Otherwise, he just stays everywhere away from it. It's kind of adorable. It's really, really funny. But, I also just want a quick chat. Adrenaline, I watch all of Jesse's videos and join these live streams, but I do not know her. Most all I can say is I can respect her wonder, sport her boundaries are so important. Well, thank you, Adrenaline. And like we were talking about with like parasocial relationships, like I don't want to say like
It's not that you don't know me,
Yeah.
but it's just that like you only know facets, and as I said, it's that thing of like when I get to when a parasocial relationship for me moves into a social, I try to start at getting to know the person through the social lens and then apply like reverse engineering the relationship between that and the art, you know. So rather than getting a perception of them built off of their art, I get a perception of their art based off of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I tend to agree with that. It's like, yeah, with all of you, it's like I was saying earlier too, it's like with you in the chat and with you, I mean, you and I have slightly different because like you and I talk separately, but but like with the streams, like you do know me to a degree, but like it's also like the stuff that I'm willing to share with you, and but also like stuff I'm willing to share in a more broad based sense that's like relating to all of you and putting out in a larger, like a work of art that is made for a larger consumption, not just one person, as opposed to like a person that I know as a friend or a person that I'm in a romantic relationship with, where I will like also still cater what I present to that person in certain ways, because no one ever knows the totality of somebody. But there's a difference between like you and me, that like I know you one-on-one and like as friends, whereas like I know someone like in a platonic relationship, in a romantic relationship, which I'll also present a different version of myself for, versus someone like an audience, which like you do know me, but like in a way that I'm willing to present to multiple people. You know,
a very sanitized version, and I think the problem is that people take those sanitized versions as the be all and end all, and then when not great stuff comes up about a creator, it turns into this like huge disappointment because they've invested all of this idea into a concept of the person, the idea that they've built in their heads of them, and they just can't live up to it. You can't. You cannot live up to things, and I've spent a lot of the time that I've been online really like careful about making sure that I control that type of stuff, because I'm a very anxious person, and
yeah, I know that
highly people pleasing due to experiences with trauma, and I recognize those things as negative, and I try to do my best not to let them govern the way I interact with people online. Definitely when I started, like I had a different sort of ethos of behavior, one that was often not as, I would say, productive, because I would constantly try to interact with people who were being shitty to me. And it's like, well, no, just don't interact with them.
Yep.
But like, so I don't know, I try to make sure that I don't like gloss over my flaws. I have been, shitty in various ways. I have held bigoted beliefs. The majority of people I was around in high school were deeply bigoted people. I dealt with a lot of self-hate as a trans person. I've dealt with a lot of self-hate as a disabled person. I do everything in my power to try to educate and teach about those things now, because A, I want to combat the things that created those experiences for myself, and B, I want to make sure that those types of things are available to people who need to hear them, because I know I needed to hear them and no one was telling me them. And that type of stuff has an effect on you, a long-lasting effect, you know? And so, like, yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I walked out and one day and I was this magical, you know, perfect, understanding, well-read, whatever. Nah, I've had some shitty fucking perspectives in the world when I was younger. And sure, I had the least shitty views of the people around me. That doesn't magically make it okay.
I definitely, yeah, I second that. Yeah, and it's also like just a relationship to the world in general, right? Like we don't come birthed out like knowing all these things or knowing how to interact with everybody or knowing how best to interact with others of the world. And it's all about being receptive to growing. And I feel like the people that end up being toxic and end up being harmful are the people that like feel like they have things figured out and that their view of the world is the best way or the only way, and that it needs to be static. In that are that they can like enact their will upon the world and make the other people view the world the way they do. I think is what ultimately ends up being harmful in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. And for myself, like, I know that I am capable of those shitty things, so I'm constantly on guard for anything that I'm doing that might be, you know, perpetuating that in any way. But it's also why I have a very specific perspective about people who claim to be on a path of changing. Because I'm like, I've been the one lying before, and I can see, like, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where like,
are they actually doing the work or not?
I've lived it. I know. I can tell you're not doing the work. Like, I can tell you're not doing the work, and I can tell you don't want to do the work. Like, and it's not because I am saying the person shouldn't be given a chance. It's that I'm like, because of these dozen specific reasons, behaviors, and actions, you know, this consistent pattern, I can tell this person isn't right now doing that work. And I'm really tired of this, like, thing that some people do where when people critique their favorite parasocial attached person they're obsessed with, when someone critiques that, the people take it very poorly and try to make you out as someone who's against change. And my thing is, like, change takes work. Change is hard, and you can see it when someone's doing it. If you've been around long enough, you know when someone isn't like doing it. And I hate it because every time I've done, like, been like, hey, I don't think this person's really changing, lo and behold, a little while later, everybody's like, oh, I'm so disappointed. And I'm like, well, I fucking told you. Like, I don't know what to say. At a certain point, like it's not the idea that the person shouldn't change. It's that the person isn't doing the work. And I think that's what a lot of this comes down to, is that you either are or are not doing the work. And I would like to believe that I'm doing the work. I would like to believe that. And if I'm not...
Well, the work never ends, you know? It's like, it's always about constantly...
Yeah. To be clear, I 100% agree. That caveat is very, very big. But, like, I don't know. I'm going to fuck up. That's just a reality. I'm going to fuck up and I'm going to have to learn. And I hope that people will tell me when I fuck up. And I will keep telling people to tell me when I fuck up, because...
That's what I always say, too. It's like, I am going to fuck up here, and I want people to let me know when I fuck up, and I want people to hold me accountable when I fuck up, but I also, like, hope that as long as I am trying my best to show that I am doing the work, just hopefully I can do that. You know what I mean? It's a constant battle. Anyways.
Yeah, well, that's why I just... Yeah. Like, I have a very... frustrated relationship with the way like a lot of people try to talk about. And I say a lot of, the only reason I'm bringing this up because I actually really liked your video on cancel culture, and I'm kind of happy you made it, so I don't have to. Nothing I love more than creators making stuff so I don't have to.
Believe me, that's why do you think, like, for example, my best example is I keep referencing Mia Mulder's video on puberty blockers, because I'm like, I'm so glad Mia made that video on puberty blockers, so I can be like, hey, you want to know about puberty blockers and the problem, and like how puberty blockers are actually like not harmful, and that it's just right-wing propaganda, that they're actually hurtful. Go watch Mia Mulder's video, and it just makes it so easy. So it's just like, thank God for Mia and other creators who like make videos that I don't have to.
Yeah, but because like cancel culture, even as a term, is a specifically right-wing term.
Mm-hmm.
It's invented by them as a rhetoric built around fucking over marginalized people, and I'm really uncomfortable with how many often privileged people who claim to be leftists, but like I so clearly can see are not doing the work. And I want to be clear, it's not everybody who uses that term. There's a number of people who use that term because they just genuinely are caught up by everybody else using it. I'm like, maybe critically examine your usage of this a little bit more. Like, what narratives are you upholding by making it out that marginalized people are evil and out to get you in an organized cabal? And I'm not using that term randomly. I'm using that term specifically because, hey, the anti-Semitism is very heavily related into this. Like, there is a reality with this stuff of it, like it has a specific history and language, and when you go around tossing it in all directions, it's like it prevents any sort of real conversation about the difficulties, because there is a problem with people responding to negative events in specific ways that aren't productive, but also that isn't cancel culture. And like people harassing you are not the same thing as people critiquing you. And when you use the term cancel culture, you conflate all interactions as one thing.
Yep.
It's all the same thing. And it's not. Like, so for example, in the cancel culture spin on the world, right? When I critique, say, the Wachowskis, right? I guarantee I'm gonna get some sort of like, you're trying to cancel them message in the description, even though I explicitly stated.
Oh, I get it all the time.
I would love them to change. I want them to like buy some long shot to see this and do better. Like that
happens in everything. Like for example, like my freaking Texas and Florida video that I released the other day. I've gotten so many comments recently that are like, asking for 10-year-old, like legitimately like asking for 10-year-olds to get like gender confirmation surgeries and get their vaginas to get made vaginas. Like, that's objectively child abuse. And I'm like, I mean, did I, like, in the video, I quite literally say only at the age of consent should people be getting those types of, like, very, those surgeries. It's like, I say it in the text of the video.
Yeah, you can just invent stuff wholesale, because again, it's all narratives. It's all about feeling. And so I think a lot of people who get caught up in using cancel culture rhetoric because they're experiencing a mix of critique and harassment, right? They're guided by feeling, and I can't fault them for that feeling, to be honest. Yeah,
but what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to flatten all these things in order to be able to dismiss them. Like, it allows, like, again, I hate to keep using her as an example, but she just makes it so obvious. Like, it allows J.K. Rowling to be like, oh, I keep getting harassed by the trans community, and I'm like, but there are legitimate critiques from the trans community, and you're just flattening it all as like just death threats in the entire community. Apparently, every single trans person is sending you death threats instead of like there being like legitimate criticisms of your horrible, toxic, disgusting words.
Well, I think that's the perfect fucking like ideal candidate for describing this behavior and it's this bullshit. Because like J.K. Rowling treats it like all trans people are personally responsible for a number of people getting too heated in the way that they respond to her,
Mhm.
which frankly, I'm sorry, but once you've done enough, actual direct harm to a group that objectively will cause deaths,
Mhm.
again, her words, her hate manifesto has been used to justify various directly physically harmful laws that are provably damaging. This is not like a subjective opinion about the pieces. This is the objective material results of her words. Like, you cannot separate it.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I don't know. It's more I'm being like very specific about this. Like, so yeah, you know what? I think people get to angrily tell you to fuck off. I think people can be a little angry at you, and I'm sick of the tone policing bullshit.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
and as I've always said, like I don't mean ever say it.
Hey, but I also am like behaving like that is equivalent to you actively causing physical material effects in the world that are harmful. It's like,
yeah. No, and I've always said, like, I've always been like, I understand where all these things come. Like, harassment and death threats are one thing, but like being angry, like, fuck yeah, no, be angry at fucking J.K. Rowling. And harassment and death threats, like, I also understand emotionally where those things come from. I don't necessarily condone them, but I get where they come from.
I get where they come from. I wouldn't personally do it, but I'm also like, you know what? I fucking get it. And also, like, for the people who are saying that, I don't think they're like actively like I want to go out and do physical violence.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more accurate to say they're just hurt and they're lashing out, and yeah, the idea. Here's my problem. Our rights shouldn't be fucking contingent on us being nice.
Yep, 100%.
I'm. Oh, you weren't nice? No rights for you.
Yep.
Like, you stopped being a human being. But like, she's somehow nice when she continuously produces directly harmful lies about us.
Because she says it in a nice way, and she says she has a trans friend. It's fine.
She has one trans friend. It's okay. Didn't you know?
So yeah, it's just, and there's like a difference between like, and also like what she's doing is violence. She just doesn't like have to like actively like punch someone in the face, But what she's doing is more violent. Like what J.K. Rowling does is more harmful and violent than a trans person sending her a death threat. Not to condone that necessarily, but.
I mean, if we want to be really disgusting and utilitarian, which I disagree with, but let's. Just for a hypothetical conversation about a philosophical viewpoint I disagree with, and I'm saying that like 5 times to be clear, if someone actually did any sort of like, say, damage to her property, it wouldn't even pale in comparison to the amount of damage that she has done to trans people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like if we want to talk about fucking harm in a sort of like let's lay it out in a
very clear way.
Some game. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think you get to complain.
Yep.
At that point. Like, I don't know. I keep thinking about this one. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to read it. It's fine. It's just, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of, like, being nice because if we're not, we might experience additional violence. I'm sick of it. I'm sick that we have to cater all of our tone and behavior to the sensibilities of a rich white fucking hate movement leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't use those words lightly, but like, whether she likes it or not, that's what she's become. That's what her followers have decided to be, and that's what she keeps telling them to be too.
Yeah.
So, like, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like, I think part of why I get so angry with cis people continuing to support and watch her stuff and, like, and yell about how much they're like, oh, well, I should still get to do it. I'm like, is that, like, I don't know, if someone walked up to you and was like, hey, I really like watching, like, I know it's bad, but I just need you to know that I think it's okay that I keep watching this thing from this person who's actively wants you dead. Okay? I just need to tell you that. I need you to know that. Like, it's like, I don't know. I think cis people can watch Harry Potter. I just think they need to shut up about it.
Well, like, what I've always said is, like, I don't mind, like, there's an element to me, like, I probably will play the new Hogwarts. I'm not going to play it on stream or talk about it or anything, but I might play the new Hogwarts game when it comes out, because I kind of like that world and I like Harry Potter, but there's a difference between, like, number one, I'm not going to buy it new. I'm going to buy it used. I'm going to try to, like, make sure I don't support, like, J.K. Rowling specifically monetarily in any way, shape, or form with that. But then also, like, it's about, like, wrestling with... You have to wrestle with it. You can't get to ignore it. You can't get to absolve yourself. You need to wrestle with what it means to do these things. So if, like, a cis person's, like, comes up and is like, I just want you to know, I think it's okay that I play Harry Potter. It's like, you're not getting it. Yeah.
You don't get to say, and it's this thing of, like, I am fine with trans people who have an attachment to that series deciding they want to engage with it in a way that gives no money to J.K. Rowling on their own in the background. But, like, it's... And I don't even really have an issue if cis people are reading the book or watching the films. My issue is your need to talk about it.
And also your need to absolve yourself of any accountability. Like, it's my issue is, like, they need to absolve themselves of having to wrestle with it.
That's
like,
a better way of putting it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they need to absolve them. It's like... You could read Harry Potter. You can even play the games. You could, like, it's totally... Like, it's okay to a degree. But number one, like, don't produce an economy that, like, gives J.K. Rowling more money and attention without actually talking about trans issues, and don't, like, abstain yourself of, like, talking about trans issues. Like, honest to God, what I would love is, like, because the new J.K. Rowling movie is coming out, if, like, that's gonna happen, and people are gonna review it, and people are gonna talk about it. But what I would actually prefer in that situation to be, like, every single time someone's like, "Oh, here's a review of J.K. Rowling's movie. Also, J.K. Rowling is a TERF, and here's what TERF means, and here's the ways you can educate yourself."
Great.
Yeah, because then it just brings attention to it. Yeah,
because that does the exact opposite of no. If you want to talk about it explicitly in a, like, J.K. Rowling's a piece of shit.
And still, like, you can even still engage with the movie and be like, I like the what it comes out and it turns out to be the best movie ever made. I doubt it's gonna be it's gonna be a crappy movie, but even if it was, yeah, it's even if it comes out and, like, it's the best movie ever made, even if you're like, everybody's like, this is a great movie, but also here's an avenue for you to learn about trans issues through that. I'm fine with that. It's just that you need to grapple with that, and it can't just be like, this is a great movie and we'll ignore the problems, or this is a great movie, therefore J.K. Rowling is great. Like, you can't do either of those things.
And I'm just tired of being asked by cis people for permission for them to watch their shitty little fascist, terrible book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm tired of being asked, "Oh, is it okay if I do it?" I'm not the authorities. I'm not the police. Fuck the police. ACAB includes media police too. Stop asking me for permission.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. I'm just tired of being asked for permission from people for them to watch bigotry. I don't know, like, it's your choice. I can't really see those films without going, yeah, that's an anti-Semitic goblin. Oh,
yep.
There's the racism. That's a lot of racism. Oh, like, I don't know. It's like, like, it's not. It's like, there's just certain works that are so tainted that I'm like, I don't know why you need to, like, announce your relationship to it. That's, I don't know.
No, I
enjoy
agree.
it in your free time on your own. There's lots of art that I watch that's fucked up or bad that I have things about. Like,
the Matrix movie. Speaking of the Wachowskis, like, bringing it full circle. Yeah, but yeah, no.
The Matrix films on their own aren't too bad. There's some light stuff. There's one that Bellamy pointed out while we were watching the premiere, and I really wish we'd talked about it beforehand, which is that there is a little bit of the magical black person trope going on with the Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but, like,
which, by the way, you should go watch. Princess Weeks did a really good video on the magical black person that you should all go watch.
Princess Weeks is always just a phenomenal creator. I absolutely adore her videos. But yeah, it's this thing of, like, I don't know, like, why are you pestering trans people about someone who's bigoted against us? I guess that's where I'm at. It's just like, Yes, if you need a young magic user book, try the Tiffany Aching books by Terry Pratchett. Just read Terry Pratchett.
Just read Terry Pratchett.
Fantasy, okay, if you want fantasy, I've got 3 recommendations: Terry Pratchett, N.K. Jemisin,
Yes.
and why is her name blanking in my brain right now? She's one of my favorite authors.
Just tell me, because I might know. Because N.K. Jemisin I know, and Terry Pratchett.
Lee Bardugo. Specifically, read Six of Crows. I don't super love or find the Grisha trilogy interesting on its own, and even the author herself has gone back and changed it when she did the TV adaptation. Which, by the way, she's super involved in the Shadow and Bone TV show.
Oh, I did a video, whole video on it. So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how much people in chat know.
Yeah.
So all the changes from the book are her adding stuff, and I love that she added a ton of Six of Crows stuff in, because Six of Crows it's one of the best books ever.
I need to read it because I've read Terry Pratchett. I need to read more Terry Pratchett, which, by the way, I know people are asking because I'm doing reviews of Terry Pratchett's books, and I will get back to it, I promise. The reason it's been delayed is because they're coming out with new audiobooks of the Terry Pratchett books, and I want to listen to the new audiobooks. I'm waiting for those. But I am going to get back to Terry Pratchett reviews, don't worry. Also, I might wrap out the stream because I'm getting hungry and my food's getting here, so I think I might head out, everybody.
Sounds good.
But Aronach, you stick around because we'll talk for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll talk for a minute.
Yeah. But everybody, I think I'm going to wrap out the stream. Apologies again that I missed some of the stream stuff, but Aronach is always a wonderful person to conversate with, and I hope you have... No, you're fine. I just want to apologize that I don't engage as much, but I also, I think people appreciate you being here. It's one of those, I am sad that I'm not engaging with the chat as much, but I also think people appreciate our conversations as much. I think it's totally fine. But I also just wish to say sorry that I'm not engaging with everybody as much as I normally do. So I love you, everybody. You are always wonderful. You are amazing. I adore you all. Mwah. Also, Sarah, you are lovely, and we will talk. I also want to, the stuff that you sent me the other day, I do want to talk about that at some point. I've just been busy today. I also want to talk to you about the James Gunn video because I want to have you in that. But regardless, I love you all. You're all amazing, and I adore you all. Go subscribe to Aronach's channel. Go watch The Matrix is Intrinsically Trans. That's a video we've been kind of discussing this entire stream.
Yeah.
Vaguely on and off. But it's a fantastic video.
We've been having conversations around it.
Exactly.
We've been having conversations branching off of it.
Yeah, which should tell you how wonderful it is, because it creates these conversations, and all good art creates good conversations. So go watch Aronach's video. Also, as Sarah says, happy trans anniversary,
Thank you again,
Aronach.
And
that's wonderful.
Everyone should also go watch Sarah's videos because they're great.
That's the next person. Sarah's videos at the Custom Codex are amazing, and you should go watch them. I was just about to get to that next.
Yeah.
So both Aronach and Sarah's channel, both need to watch, both wonderful, both amazing. And yes, I adore you all. I love you all. I will see you. I might play more because I feel bad because I didn't get to play a lot of Elden Ring. So I might, again, I'm not going to promise anything, but I'm hopefully going to play some more Elden Ring this week. So depending on if I can finish Dark Souls 2, I will play more Elden Ring on stream. But I love you, adore you. I will see you all Thursday. Also, patrons, you should be getting a Star Trek video tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. It'll be up on Friday for everybody, but a Star Trek video for patrons this weekend. And I love you. So, bye, everyone. Mwah.